Okay. So, where's our funny quote?
Togusa, if you're still alive, get off your lazy ass and arrest those garbage men.
Yes, sir. The fun never stops. Lucky me.
Oh,
Poor
yeah.
Togusa. It's
Oh,
hard to be a straight
welcome
man when you're
everybody.
surrounded by cyborgs.
I'm sorry.
It's hard to be a straight man when you're surrounded by cyborgs.
Welcome everybody to another episode. And you're hearing a new voice. We
Hello.
have Jordan from Shonen Flop Podcast. Hello, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing all right. You know? Watch this
Can
awesome movie.
oh,
It's like-
No, is it
yes.
a podcast or just a flopcast?
oh, yeah. So it's kind of both. So yeah, our podcast Shonen Flop, what we do is we basically dig through Shonen Jump's garbage bin. We pull out the manga that wasn't good enough to keep going and got canceled, and we read through it, and we're to figure out if, well, did Shonen Jump mess up? Could this have been kept going and been like a real gem? Unfortunately, that's usually not what happens. Usually, they got canceled for a reason. So.
Oh wow.
You're
Yeah,
there to
it's
confirm the
fun.
good job was on.
Yeah, we're like, you know what, editors, you did a good. I understand why you did this.
So is it usually more tropey trope, or is it usually just this makes no sense and it's dumb and it should go away?
It's usually like, man, nothing has happened for the past 3 chapters. Nothing has
Uninspired.
happened. Like, or it's just like, man, and it's like, man, hey, artist, you really couldn't draw anything in these backgrounds like at all. Shit like that. You know?
Ouch. They could have given
Yeah.
present images like samples and shit like that and put it in there.
Yeah, a lot of the time it is tropey as hell, though. That is absolutely.
Can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Oh yeah, basically anywhere that you can find podcasts, you just type in Shonen Flop, you'll find us, or you can go to shonenflop.com. Shonenflop.com. Yeah, I had to think if it was .net or .com for a second.
Not
So-
.org, guys. Not .org.
I'm pretty sure it's not .org. I would be surprised to learn that it's .org.
And I don't know if it matters, but I am actually a fan. I listen to the podcast. So if you like
Nice.
anime, I strongly recommend it.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
started listening, and I accidentally ended up listening to a dozen of episodes today.
Oh, nice! Oh yeah!
Nice.
So I really suggest that to our listeners too. Stop the podcast right now and go and check them out. They're very good. They're very
Yeah,
good.
yeah. You know, and the reason why we say it is we're typically a long format podcast. So you are going to pause anyways. So might as well pause now. Get in the last episode, listen, and then come back. We'll be waiting, definitely. So
Hey, while we're pausing and going back and doing stuff, I recommend that anybody who's listening to this and has not seen Ghost in the Shell from 1995, it is freaking awesome. Go and watch it. It's not that long. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
What's the
But,
25th anniversary?
You really need to go and watch it, preferably twice. The first for the visuals and the second for the audio, which is the music and what they're actually saying, because it is quite heavy in all the political.
It's quite
intrigue.
distracting to see Makoto getting naked every time that she's gonna go and act.
The soundtrack is incredible in this movie.
yes.
Oh my god, the soundtrack's amazing. And yeah, I feel like they had a timer where it's like, guys, 5 minutes went by, we haven't seen any titties yet. Put that on the screen right now. Yeah, like
You won't need that
Look,
yet.
if your sister's Barbie dolls excited you, you will like Makoto getting naked. Otherwise,
yeah, it's
Yeah, no nipples.
she's a Barbie doll.
there was nipples in the one I watched. I don't know what version you were seeing, but I saw some nipples.
Yeah, well, I'm being bitchy here now about details. I've been watching the 25th anniversary, so nipples are actually ultra produced here. Like
Oh,
You've
well,
never
yeah.
painted nipples on a Barbie doll. You've never lived.
No, probably I'll be playing with Barbies right now.
And listeners, if you don't know why we are explicit, now you know.
Don't let your kids listen to this. You can listen to this at work if you want to. Your call.
Yeah.
But your kids don't put the kids.
Hey, I'm a biologist. I wanted it to be accurate, all right?
So, you know what? Let's go into our first segment.
Define science fiction remnant.
Whoa.
And you know the drill. If you love the show and you know people that have not heard of us and they love sci-fi, how would you describe us to them? So you can go ahead and tweet at us and give us your response, or you can call our hotline 1-305-563-6334 and leave a voicemail, and your message will be on our future episodes.
You
Please
used
call
to
me
So
call
up.
me as I
Please.
remnant.
Whoa.
Right now where you need sci-fi.
there you
Please
go.
call the number.
So if this is your
James Terrell over here. Yeah.
if this is your first time listening to us, you pretty know, you don't know, but we are not your typical review show. For starters, we have no rails. We do things out of order, and we just talk
Anarchy.
mainly about the topics within the story, and not necessarily about the story itself. So it's kind of like, the best description is one that I've heard before on Twitter, where someone says, we are kind of like that group of friends that get together on the way to Comic-Con and just talk shit.
Oh, I could tell. I could tell already. You know, it's nice. It's a nice
We're the sort of
atmosphere.
friends
You
that would
know.
line up early so that we could talk more.
And I'll
Which
tell
I
you,
started to do
I'm not
for their
drinking
shows.
tonight because I drank yesterday for Radio Chaos and I haven't drank in a while and I got trashed with 2 little drinks, so I'm not drinking today.
Lightweight. Lightweight.
I used to be heavyweight. You can ask Robert. I used to put Robert to sleep.
Yeah. I'm drinking beer today, so
Hey, that means you gotta pay less to get drunk, right? Hey,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah,
it's just more
that's true.
efficient, you know.
exactly.
Well, and I mean, for people that are sane, stay sane. That's what happens when you do heavy drugs. You don't do drugs at all afterwards.
Oh
You don't
yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move along to the next segment. We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is SciFi.
And you know the drill. This is the section where we talk about the hashtag This is Sci-Fi, and it's our attempt to join all sci-fi communities together. So if you are, for example, a Star Wars fan and you want to talk about something else other than Star Wars or Star Trek,
Yes.
Star
you
Wars
can
is
just go into this hashtag and talk
There's-
about all sci-fis.
Wait, there's more sci-fi than just Star Wars and Star Trek? I thought that was it.
Star Wars is fast,
Nice.
not sci-fi.
What about 2001: A Space Odyssey?
That's how you know this is a real sci-fi podcast.
The sci-fi in the force. Mm.
Yeah.
Some namaste shit.
Yeah, we're, I had the idea of the hashtag a while ago because I love all sci-fi, and you guys have heard me talk about this previously before. And at the time, I usually find what I like to call silos in a specific IP. And however, I like to talk about all IPs within the sci-fi universe. So I figure, why not, get a hashtag? Well, creators and fans join in together, and there's a bigger factor of discovery. And we can talk sci-fi. We could talk outside our individual silos, and who knows? You discover new things that you might not otherwise be exposed to.
Yeah.
So my experience, I don't know if you have any experience on the this is sci-fi hashtag Ray or Geo, but I can point out a couple of things that for this week that I read. Um,
Go for it.
there's obviously, aside from the sci-fi or scientific articles that I read that I post in there, which I'm getting a lot of conversation from that, which is kind of cool. Um, also, I don't know if you know, but I also put in there that we are in Siri and Alexa and Google. All you have to do is mention, "Hey," whatever device you have.
I tried that and she couldn't find us. I was disappointed.
Oh, that's weird because I tried an old, Siri, Alexa, and Google. You do, "Hey," whatever it is that your device is, Siri, Alexa, or Google, and you
Alexa,
say
play Science Fiction Rennet podcast.
play science fiction random podcast.
Information from iHeartRadio.
Nope, that's not us.
Yeah, you gotta
What the
say
hell
it
was
specifically. I think play science fiction Reddit podcast. It actually works for me.
That
Another
doesn't want to
thing.
work for me.
Robert, great way to rub in us on all of us that you have all the platforms.
Yeah.
Alexa's right here in front of me. So
Let us know if you are able to discover right away, or if you're like Ray and can find us. Reach out to Twitter and let us know.
Yeah, not available on Australia. Hey man, I can't blame you. You're in the future. It hasn't get there yet.
Oh, maybe that's it.
Coming from the past.
Yeah,
it's like that Star Trek episode when everything was running backwards.
Yeah, time works in mysterious ways.
Oh, yeah.
It's bigger in the past. That's because you were a teenager.
That's what she said.
I hope she doesn't say that. Ooh.
No, I mean it's bigger in the past. When she's done, when you're done, you go. No.
Nice.
I've still got to hear from last week.
It's like Steins Gate, banana, you know.
I want to point out that I found also within the this is sci-fi hashtag Online Warriors podcast. Listen to our last episode. That at the time of recording, the last episode that released was Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and he commented saying it was an absolute fantastic episode. So I want to say thank you very much. We definitely had fun recording that episode. So thank
It
you
was
so
an
much.
absolutely fantastic anime.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yes.
Kicked ass.
I still need to watch that. I've heard nothing but good things about it.
It kicked my
Oh,
ass.
it is. It's only 10 episodes.
Yeah,
but,
it's Trigger,
Rebecca
right?
is best- yeah, it is Trigger. So it's like full on. Like stand back. Don't take drugs, or you're gonna flip. You're gonna flip out while you watch this.
Not
Yeah.
like that, please.
And then listen to the episode and let me know what you think about my my reaction to that.
It's actually a shame you haven't watched it yet because it's a good comparison to this.
Yeah,
I bet it is. I mean, there's so much stuff that compares right to this. Like we were on the pre-show, I was talking about how I watched this movie and I was immediately like, oh my god, Hideo Kojima has seen this movie 30 times. There is so much Metal Gear in. Well, I guess the other way around. There's so much Ghost in the Shell in Metal Gear.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie should say Square Enix right before it started, right?
Oh my god, yeah.
You being a manga man, you know that the manga generally, or you know, the written story comes before the movie or the adaptation or whatever. And then people turn around and go, this is just a copy of that. And you go, actually, no, the manga came out like 10 years before that movie. So this is where the original is. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you know how that works.
I actually read like a couple chapters of the manga, of the Ghost in the Shell manga. A couple. It was interesting because there's like there's differences in Makoto's characterizations that really took me off guard. I mean, it's like, first of all, the manga reminded me almost more of a Frank Miller comic from the 80s than like a manga. It was interesting. And Makoto...
It's very much in that Akira basket as well.
Yeah, Makoto's character... Or I guess Motoko. I'm sorry. Motoko Kuzuna, you know. She's a lot sillier in the manga. Like
Yeah.
she's like
It's a-
sticking her tongue out and stuff and making goofy jokes, and I was very surprised to see
Yeah, she
that.
had to stick up the ass in here. Most cargo.
Yeah, yeah, way. Yeah, yeah, she's way more laconic in the movie, and I actually I prefer the movie's characterization. I used to watch the Standalone Complex TV show when it ran, so yeah, so I'm more familiar with that characterization.
Have you seen the new one on Netflix yet?
No, are you talking? You're
Arise.
talking about the
The CGI one, 2045.
No, I haven't. How
I've seen
have
the
you?
movies.
How is that?
There's three movies. The movies I watched them. They're good.
It has the same problem as Black Lotus did in that it's all CGI, so it kind of loses that richness that you get from cell animation, and in certain parts it feels like they didn't quite have the animation budget to make it really work.
Ooh,
but
that's a shame.
the story is spot on. It's beautiful. It's worth watching just for the story.
But I'll tell you, I felt like
yeah.
Black Lotus actually had more life. It felt more like Final Fantasy movie on the lively compared to the Arise series of movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black Lotus was 80% story, 20% visuals.
So
hey,
let's let's move on.
I'm a writer, I can deal. But yeah,
if it's a good story, whatever.
It was awesome.
Exactly.
It was awesome. One more thing, and this is sci-fi hashtag Scarif podcast posted a question in there. The future, what show will you still be watching on your personal X37B headset? Which I find it really interesting. Obviously, that headset doesn't exist, but it's kind of like your typical headset, kind of like what we see on this particular movie as well. What kind of show, and it started a conversation, which that's the whole idea of this is sci-fi hashtag is starting the conversation about sci-fi. Okay, so the next segment, Gio, take it away.
Shout out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for this episode we're gonna have a special thank you to Jacked Up Reviews. He's gonna participate with us in our next episode. Actually, we're recording tomorrow. Don't miss that one up. It's gonna be Enemy Mine. It's not about pronunciated. That's just how they wrote the name. Not my fault. So we're looking forward to that.
I'm actually going to be on that podcast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the cancer bats.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. Yeah.
That's like a version of Morbius.
No, that's a punk band.
Oh, okay, no, because in Morbius he actually used bats to cure cancer.
Oh my god. I just say they totally messed that up. All right, so I watched the Spider-Man cartoon in the 90s, and their version of Morbius was so much cooler because like they for some reason they were not allowed to use actual vampirism. Like they weren't allowed to show a guy biting someone's neck. So what they did instead is they just gave him these little leech suckers on his hand. So he would go up to you, rip off your sleeve, and then just grab your arm. And he couldn't drink blood. He would drink plasma. And it wound up just being so much more. It wound up being so much more unique, so much more interesting. And then they just made him a vampire. Whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, he has a lot of more qualities of a bat than anything else too. Aside for superpowers, the using the system like to use sonar to look at everything around him and everything, and then superpowers and super speed.
Yeah, I mean the problem with that is that they already have Daredevil.
Yeah, that's true. Daredevil is actually his blindness.
Yeah,
he's crazy.
So Morbius is discount Daredevil?
Well, no, I mean just the idea of having a superhero that uses like echolocation and sonar to find where things are. That's kind of what Daredevil does already,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And next we're gonna mention also Spoopy Captain Kyoshii and her handle. Jacked Up Reviews is just written like that on their handle, just so I don't forget, so you know how to find them too. It's Jacked Up Reviews with capital J, capital U, and capital R. And also to a special thank you to Spoopy Captain Kyoshii. Her handle is KyoCat 2468, and it goes KYOCAT. And also to Bromigos, and it goes Bromigos Pots, Bromigos Pot for their handle. Thank you so much to both of you for also engaging in conversations with us. We appreciate always picking on our brains and engaging with us. I mean, we love it. We love the conversation in all medias. So keep it going, guys. And also, I want to say a special mention to my podcast crush, dear Nikki. Nikki, we need to have you again on the show.
Oh
Stop,
yes.
stop running away from me. You know it's inevitable. You need to listen to her podcast. It's the sexiest thing in podcasts. Okay.
And I have to say, it is adults only. So don't listen at work. Don't listen with kids. Put headphones on. But it's a great podcast.
It's like
Yeah.
50 Shades of Podcasts.
Oh my god.
Literally. You need to listen to her. Her handle is D Nikki DNKIYY DN. So her handle is DNIKKY162. So you can find her on Twitter, and from there you can also find her in all her medias. She's in all the podcast medias too. Must listen.
Nice.
If you're an adult.
And also,
If you're
Online Warrior Podcast, which Robert actually mentioned. Do you have the handle by any chance, Robert? Or they can find it like that on Twitter, probably.
I'll go ahead and put a link on the description of the show.
All right. And I mean, that's it for this segment.
Okay, let's moving right along to the segment that we forgot in our last episode. Can you believe that?
The outer remnant.
Should I do it?
And I think
There you go.
we have a record. We have a record. Gio has one for us.
Yeah, I actually had the honor to participate in Radio Chaos yesterday. It was a fun episode. We were talking about the uwu as a weapon for Alita. Such a great topic to talk about, man.
I'm a bastard. I came up with that one because of how much Angelus goes on about.
Oh man, you should have
the
seen him, man. He was going crazy about, oh, my heart Myrtle here. Oh my god, I melted like ice in there. Oh my god, Alita, she's so cute.
Next week, you want to be on next week as well because I put another uwu one in there. But it's who else in the Alitaverse has the uwu factor? Who's your top 5? So we'll see a bit more uwu next week as well.
The uwu factor, nice. Oh my god.
Well, look, it's 100. It's where next week is the 140th episode, right?
Whoa.
We've been going for like 2.5 years.
Right on.
Running out of topics. I sit there racking my brain going, we need another topic.
Hey, that is a callback. We need a part 2. You know, so that way we don't run out of topics.
That would give you some more topics.
I'll have to come up with topics about Alita. Don't worry. They're gonna be awkward as fuck, but I saw that we have very passionate listeners and people that participate in the show.
Yes.
So I'm gonna bring it on.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I also read that like I'm pretty like I'm pretty fucking sure that Ghost in the Shell was a huge influence on Alita, right?
Yep.
Unless Alita, yeah, right, yeah. I don't know the timeline. I'm assuming Alita came after Ghost in the Shell.
Nope.
No,
No, Alita came first.
Nope.
Alita
The manga was released in 1990.
Look, I'm on a manga podcast. That doesn't mean I know shit about anime or manga. What? Come on.
I just got an idea.
So,
I just got an idea for the show. We're gonna make the attorney anime guy for Ray. Every time that he says nope, we're gonna put the guy in the video. Nope.
Oh my god, Phoenix Wright, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He's gonna be with a piece of Ray saying nope.
Objection. Objection. Yeah.
If you guys
so the Ghost in the Shell manga was serialized from 1989 to 1991. So it was currently in serialization when Gumu started as a manga. So they're right around the same time.
Nice.
Wow. So it's a contemporary. That's interesting.
Oh yeah.
So,
but yeah, second what
Ray.
you said, they probably are very, very comparable to
Yeah.
other universes.
Yeah.
So, Ray, are we ready?
I'm born ready, man.
What
I've
is
got the
it?
Ghost in the Shell manga
Not
wiki
ever.
page open on one side of my screen. On the other side, I've got the plot. The
What-
plot.
What is it that
for
we're going to
the-
talk about? I'm not quite sure.
So we're talking about the anime garbage truck guys who've had their brains hacked. I believe is the alternate
Excuse
title
me.
for this show.
Excuse me, they're ghosts hacked.
Ghosts. Sorry, I
They're
got to get the
ghosts
terminology right.
hacked.
Yes.
Yeah.
One would presume that ghosts is in their brain, but
wrong
maybe not.
property.
Anyway. So this is
Ghosts in the show.
1995. The source material was, as I said, serialized between 89 and 91, and it got an anime movie rather than a series, which was interesting. And it's a very, very pretty movie, even for 95.
It's
the visuals
incredible
are stunning, and the matching soundtrack. When you start getting that sort of I don't know how you describe it. It's sort of
I think it's
music
folkloric
that
of
you
Japan.
expect it at a Shinto temple or
Yeah.
shrine.
It
It's
sounds to
shrine.
me like a folkloric sound to me from Japan, to be honest.
it's like a combination of like synths and traditional Japanese music.
Yes.
Like it reminds me of the guy who did the soundtrack for the Berserk anime.
Yes.
Like the 90s one. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, to me, this is where Hans Zimmer was born from.
I think he started earlier than that.
Honestly, I prefer this to anything Hans Zimmer did.
But I mean, my point is like the music kind of like is immersive too, and that's great part of a good work of art when it comes to movies is something that immerses you into the story, that takes you away, and the music was a great part of that too. When you're looking at the intro, that when it's starting, it's like you're not watching the TV anymore; you're inside of it. That's what it feels like.
It was so interesting, yeah.
Yes,
definitely. It had very Matrixy. Well, I should say the Matrix had very Ghost in the Shell-y vibe because the Matrix was 99 and this was 95. So
I'll tell you something. For me, Ghost in the Shell is like the adult version of Ghibli Studios.
Well, I did see somebody on Twitter the other day say that Ghost in the Shell 95 was the best thing that came out of anime in the 90s that didn't have Studio Ghibli involved in it.
Yeah,
so
you can say that.
I think at the very least it is the biggest thing that came out of the 90s. Was Akira like 89? I want to say.
I think so.
Yeah. Like I think
it's
that was like
it's a milestone on anime.
Yeah, Akira was like the first time that Americans had like seen. Most Americans had like seen anime, and then this was like, I feel like this was the first anime that was like released at the same time. Like
Akira was 88.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I feel like I could be wrong on this. I feel like Ghost in the Shell was like one of the first times that like maybe even the first time where like the Japanese and English versions were released at the same time. I don't know that for sure. Also, I got to say, I miss the era of English dubs when everybody had a Canadian accent.
Well, you say that, but the Rusty Angel, the Battle Angel Alita 2-part anime OVAs, you could get the American dub or the UK dub. Yeah. And one of them had a Scottish accent. It was awesome.
I like Canadian because you cannot tell where they're from in the United States.
Yeah. No, the key is like I gotta when that's that garbage man, when he said sorry, he said sorry, and I was like, here we go. This is good old sorry, 90s Canadian shit. Yeah.
Sorry, eh?
Oh man.
We're gonna pick up some garbage, eh?
Garbage.
And I mean, I don't know if you guys know it, but when somebody's eating, you're gonna notice if they are using ketchup or mayo. That's how you're gonna notice if it's American or Canadian.
Right.
You know something that I was thinking about when I was watching this After many, and I just have to say, I have watched this so many times I lost count through the years. It's definitely one of my favorite animes. I watched it also in the 90s.
Nice.
I'm in double
So
digits, I think.
yeah, so now in retrospect, with all the cyberpunk properties that I have consumed, um, I want to post this question: is do you think, and I don't know if I'm stretching it here, but Night
They
City,
always are.
it's possible that it's in the same universe as Newport City.
Could
What
be.
is your thought?
It's
But all the
cyberpunk
neons
universe.
over in America because they haven't got nearly as much.
It is possible because this isn't it Newport City is actually isn't it in Tokyo, well, around that area of Tokyo, while the Night City is in the US.
Night City?
Yeah.
Like
Have you I'm sorry, Jordan, I'm talking about Cyberpunk 2077.
I
Uh
figured that. Yeah, I figured that was a cyberpunk thing. Yeah, I'm not familiar with
Cyberpunk.
any of the cyberpunk stuff. Yeah, I'm not familiar with
So,
it.
so the original game was Cyberpunk 2013, which
Oh,
was released in 1988, same year as Akira.
yeah, that's not as
And
interesting anymore. Being like, oh, this is in 2013.
yeah,
Whoa.
and Cyberpunk 2020, which we've also passed, was 1990. So yeah, right around the same time.
I love that, like Back to the Future too, and it's like, oh, 2015, man, we're never gonna get there. Nobody's gonna nobody's gonna
Now
be
your
there.
calendar will take care of us.
Nobody's going to remember this movie series in 2015 because things will have
Yeah.
moved on to Jaws 27.
Man, I remember like before the millennial, like people in my country, like religious people, like they will actually gave everything away from their houses and shit and go to a fucking hill and wait for the end of the world. They'd be like, shit,
Oh,
we're
Yeah.
fucked now.
a lot of people
Well,
did
that was the
yeah.
thinking. We can put anything after the year 2000 because the world will have collapsed by then, or we'll have had a nuclear war. It's all over.
Yeah, and then
God,
it came the 2012 with the Mayan calendar.
Mhm.
yeah, they put out that movie 2012 where the whole
Yeah.
world ended.
We're always
Yeah.
waiting for something to take over and just destroy
And
us.
then Thanos did the snap. You know, remember that? Remember that happening?
I remember when that happened. Yeah, that was crazy. A couple of my friends just turned into triangles. It's really, really sad, you know.
Well, obviously, you don't have a good enough graphics card running your eyes to, get the actual,
Oh
15
yeah,
inch
you
movie.
mean one of my favorite things in this Ghost in the Shell movie is how like they would show these super high tech like cyborgs, and they'd show you like from their eyes, and you'd see scan lines, like they all had CRT monitors in their eyes.
Mhm.
Like the RPG going fucked up.
Yeah, like damn.
Well,
Yeah,
Well,
they-
they were analog cyborgs because they didn't know about digital technology yet.
They didn't know, yeah. Honestly, shit was like cyberpunk and anime was cooler when they didn't know about it. Like it I love that old aesthetic with like that
the
retro
wondrous feeling.
futurist aesthetic, that retro futurist cyberpunk aesthetic where it's like, oh, we don't know about like how amazing like tiny computers can get. Like I don't know, like this probably just has like a shitload of cables all over it, this big ass machine with like pistons and stuff. Like that's so much cooler.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like
You probably
the
like eye to eye
50s
with Robert.
retro.
You like steampunk, probably.
I'm not in steampunk.
It's kind of like the retro 50s aesthetic from the Fallout series,
Yeah,
Mhm.
like future past retro aesthetics.
it's similar. Yeah, it's a very cool aesthetic.
Now that
But they
mention
follow that
now you
through in
mention
the
Gattaca
Ghost in
then
the Shell
comes to
movie.
mind,
I
right?
didn't hear what Gio said.
No. Ray mentioned the retro aesthetics, and it reminds me a lot of Gattaca movie because they use that a lot. Where it's
Yeah.
futuristic, but when you look at the surroundings, it's not very futuristic. It was in 1950s.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, Gattaca, all this stuff was before anybody like we thought that 2015 we'd have flying cars, so
Yeah.
you know
Supposedly we keep having almost, but that's always almost coming.
this movie, like the city, reminded me a lot of Blade Runner.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I
Oh,
was
yeah.
gonna say. Most cyberpunk properties that you look out there, they kind of stay canon to what the universe should look like. They don't detour way too much out of it. If you notice, there's no flying car in any of them besides Blade Runner.
Yeah, and the Blade Runner flying cars are like gnarly and like messed up, like
Spinners,
they're
yeah.
Yep. But I mean, aside from that, like Cyberpunk doesn't have flying cars. Here in Ghost in the Shell, there's no flying cars.
yeah, no,
You got drones, but no like an actual car that goes. That you have highways, and the transportation system still works traditionally like it does today. And
yeah.
You know,
things that
many
Robert and I
people,
and Reyes talk about too. Like,
yeah.
imagine if you have flying cars, how car accidents will be. It will be disastrous.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you think traffic's bad now?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
The most
Well,
futuristic
it's
that I've
it's
seen is in
it's
Total
worse
Recall.
than that. I don't know if you realized it, but they were talking about Old City and New City. The New City was that very final scene where she's standing there overlooking the city, and it pans up, and you see all the sort of rivers going out into the bay, and then there's that big chunk of city in the bay. That's reclaimed land, and that's where the new city's built. And the old city's actually flooded. That's why there's boats going around the buildings. It's like Nouveau. Oh crap! What's the name of that city with all the canals? Oh God!
Naples,
I had it in my head.
Venice.
Yeah, it's sort of like Nouveau Venice with people walking along sidewalks and boats floating past and stuff like that.
To me that's a representation of Earth both greenhouse effect.
Yeah, like raising sea levels.
Yep,
definitely.
I really liked the scene where like they were going into like the really crowded bazaar areas where it was like because it was
like
this
slums.
really interesting the slums. It was like this really interesting contrast where it's like we live in this super hyper cybernetic advanced city, and yet the poor people still have to like live in these slums that look like they were out of like the 1800s or something, like these just like super crowded condensed areas.
I'll get some
Low-tech
philosophical in there, but that's some Dostoevsky shit right there. What the proletarians and the bourgeoisies are. I mean, the proletarians are always gonna be dreaming to be bourgeoisies, but they're gonna stay proletarians because that's the thing: is to keep you dreaming that you can become one, not that you will become one.
Absolutely.
This reminds me of a conversation that I was having on Twitter. Cyberpunk and listeners, if you're listening to this and you find anything else, reach out to me. But to me, the first instance that I can find of a IP where Cyberpunk actually, I don't want to say created, but the first notice of Cyberpunk was a novel called The Shockwave Rider by John Brunner in 1975. And
Was it shocking to read it?
I'm sorry?
Was it shocking to read it?
Hey. I always thought that like Neuromancer or something was considered.
Neuromancer was a great one. Oh my god! So
you know what's so awesome about Neuromancer? It was written on a manual typewriter.
Yes.
Click,
so
click, click.
It's
I actually have my VR headset to sound like a typewriter when I'm writing on my
what I recall about the conversation is the fact that like we speak in the past how science fiction is actually a thought experiment to me about different issues that we have, maybe societal issues or issues with any or coming up with solutions to things. We have the example of how Gattaca was actually a pioneer into finding a solution for that particular issue. Because of sci-fi, we have those rules. Go ahead and listen to the Gattaca episodes for more details. But what I'm trying to get to is the cyberpunk was, in my thought, the opinion of how you see how corporations are taking uh, more and more from the people, and how technology is growing and growing. It's like what happens as a thought experiment to society when corporations and technology reach the point of saturation, and everything is being controlled, and that's to me is what cyberpunk, and why I feel, and Ray, we had this discussion before, Ray. I
I
think
have a line for you
they
from a property you like, Robert. So finish your thought.
this the I'm sorry.
I have a line from a property you love, but finish your thought first, and I'll tell you the answer.
It's to me cyberpunk, to my opinion, could be its own thing from sci-fi. Although
Okay,
it is
so
a
real
subgenre.
real quick, are you talking about cyberpunk the property or cyberpunk the genre?
The genre.
Gotcha. They had to call it cyberpunk and just make everything confusing.
Exactly.
They had to call the thing cyberpunk.
Hey, man,
Let's make a
that's the
movie and call
mother-
it
that-
science fiction. You know?
That's
Yeah,
that's the mother-
exactly.
They call it the mother of SEO.
Yeah.
Hey, Hollywood, if you're listening, there's a name for the next science fiction movie, and it's called science fiction.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
now,
what was your
the
thought?
answer to your thought? Actually, in Ready Player One, they say the gist of what you feel. It's the time when humanity is stopped fixing the problem and try to outlive them. And that's what cyberpunk shows. It's like they're not trying to fix the issues. That's why you see saturation all over the place. Is they're not trying to fix any problems. You see the yards full of trash, and they're not getting smaller. They just get bigger, and they're messy. They're trying to outlive the problems. You know.
One of my favorite games right now is called Cruelty Squad. It was made by like this weird single like Finnish developer, and the premise is the aesthetic is like really gross and I love it, but the whole idea behind it is that you're an assassin who basically works with an app. Like you take gigs, like you have a gig app, and it's basically, it takes place in a world where it's very heavily inspired, but it was a response basically to Peter Thiel saying that he could cure death. So the idea is, well, all right, what would happen in a world where death doesn't matter anymore? And like one of the answers is, well, we just hire these guys to go around and kill a ton of people, because who even cares?
No, we get new COVID.
Yeah.
social cleanse.
Yeah. Oh,
baby.
yeah. Let's get into the plot of Ghost in the Shell, right?
I just wanted to drag it back.
Right, we're here to talk about Ghost in the Shell. Yeah.
Who needs rails? Come on.
I just
in the rails.
Crazy podcast. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that the wiki page is trying to give me a hard time because they've got the budget for this movie at 330 million yen, but they've got the box office at $10 million. So they're like,
that sounds like a lot more money than you.
They're mixing their metaphors here, but basically, so it was about 3.3 million, give or take, US dollars budget in translation, roughly, with a 10 million box office. So that's not too bad, especially for the time and for an anime. But then comparing it to the ultimate anime movie of the 90s, Akira had a budget of 9 million, so a bit under 3 times the budget for producing it, and made 49 million worldwide at the box office. So that's significant.
This movie was not an initial smash, but it just became a massive cult movie and just grew and grew and grew over the years, you know, which I mean is honestly, that's how like some of the best movies ever work.
Sleepers.
Yeah.
But the question is it a political thriller? Is it a questioning of what does it mean to be human? Well, cyberpunk, so yes. But this movie wears so many hats that it was probably a little bit too complicated for a lot of people. Whereas Akira was
watch the movie.
out
too.
so,
I think that the public and the audience for anime in late 80s or 80s and 90s was not as big as it's today. Because I mean, I come from a society that thinks that anime is for kids, so I got away with a lot of shit as a kid. because of that. And we didn't have many advocates like Robert that had some perverted, depraved shit of animes to show people this is anime. This is not for kids.
Yeah, yeah, you're
Oh,
just like,
yeah.
no, mom, it's an anime, Ninja Scroll. It's
No,
just an anime,
Cartoons,
whatever.
cartoons.
Jordan, I gotta give you a little context on what he was talking about. When I was in high school, I had a lot of people that told me, anime is for kids, and it used to bug the heck out of me. So I had an anime called Orosuki Doi. I don't know if you heard of that.
I haven't.
I played
You're
that
good,
for
Dad.
Geo.
You're not traumatized.
I played that for Geo, and I'm glad that he's an anime fan because I think
I didn't
anybody that
make it
watched
to
that will be
minutes.
traumatized.
I think that the reason they said that is because Americans didn't get Fist of the North Star for a little while.
Oh,
No,
no. I'm telling you.
Love Fist of
Imagine
the North
the Power Ranger monsters, but it's a giant cock that spits vagina that spits cocks.
I'm telling you, it has violence like you never seen before. If you've seen violence, recall any anime that you've seen. If you've seen violence, this has times 5. It
pornography.
has sexual
Snuff shit.
content,
Snuff shit.
pornography. It has everything and anything in excess.
There
So-
is nothing like a classic 80s violent anime. Like nothing comes close. Like
Look,
just
man.
sheer blood. And, like
I have my
I've never
share,
seen
my fair share
anything
of
like
hentais, man. And like Black
that.
Bible
Oh,
is,
yeah.
is
No,
vanilla.
Black Bible.
Black
Jesus.
Bible is vanilla. It's vanilla in front of that shit.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna send you the link because I'm really curious to see what your thought is. If you've never seen it, let me know. I seen the entire thing. Gio, how many minutes of it can
Did it
you
have a
watch?
happy ending?
15.
No.
No, I mean, way
But
too
you
many.
know, it was
Way too
such
many. I
chaos.
didn't finish.
No, but how many minutes you watched?
I think I didn't make it through 15, 20 minutes of it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, in a movie like that, you don't. Happy endings is irrelevant.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is like the fist. The fist.
The
Fist
Fifth
of the
of the
North
North Star is Disneyland.
Yeah. No, but one of my favorite things about the Fist of the North Star movie is that the original version got censored, and then the original version got lost. Like the movie, yeah, it got lost. So nobody even has the original animation of like the gore that they worked really hard on. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they'll
I'll send you
find
a
it
link.
in a salt mine in Eastern Europe somewhere.
You know what's funny is I think I'm remembering they did actually find it as a low quality Italian version. Like they finally
that's
found
very underground.
yeah, like oh my god, like this shitty VHS rip from like the 80s. There you go. That's the original version.
Have you heard of a movie called Event Horizon?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
It is a sci-fi movie. I want to do it here one day, but it had the director actually had an extra half an hour in that movie, and he got porn actors and actresses to do that section because it was supposed to be a scene of hell, and it was a mass orgy and people having hands reach down their throat and have organs ripped out and all this sort of stuff.
Man. I'm going to.
Oh,
And
devil
it
man.
was
I don't even want to know what's on heaven.
it was removed from the movie because they couldn't get a rating for it, and it was lost. So there was this really bad VHS version that was supposedly going around at one point, but the actual footage was found in a salt mine in Czechoslovakia.
Wow.
But it had degraded to the point where they couldn't rescue it.
What's this movie called?
Event Horizon.
Oh, you're still talking about Event? Oh my god, I didn't realize that happened with Event
So
Horizon.
it's not like it only ever happened to once. This thing's happened.
That's not a.
It's Tuesday. What movie's going to have a bit missing from it?
That's not a little known movie too. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a well known movie.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So these things happen.
Yeah.
But hey, let's do a plot.
Let's talk plot. Yeah.
Is there a plot?
Yeah, okay. In 2029, with the advancement of cybernetic technology, the human body can be augmented or even completely replaced with cybernetic parts. Another significant achievement is the cyberbrain, a mechanical casing for the human brain that allows access to the internet and other networks. An often mentioned term is ghost, referring to the consciousness inhabiting the body, which is the shell. Major Motoko Kusanagi is an assault team leader for Public Security Section 9 of Newport City in Japan. Following the request of Nakamura, chief of Section 6, she successfully assassinates a diplomat of a foreign country to prevent a programmer named Dayata from defecting. The foreign minister's interpreter is ghost hacked, presumably to assassinate VIPs in an upcoming meeting. Believing the perpetrator is the mysterious puppet master, Kusanagi's team follows and traces telephone calls that sent the virus. After the chase, they capture a garbage man and a thug. However, both are only ghost-hacked individuals with no clue about the puppet master. The investigation again comes to a dead end. Megatech's body, a shell manufacturer with suspected close ties to the government, is hacked and assembles a cybernetic body. The body escapes but is hit by a truck. As Section 9 examines the body, they find a human ghost inside the computer brain. Unexpectedly, Section 6's Department Chief Nakamura arrives to reclaim the body. He claims that the ghost inside the brain is the puppet master himself, lured into the body by Section 6. The body reactivates itself, claims to be a sentient being, and requests political asylum. Like I said, it's quite complicated. After the puppet master initiates a brief argument about what constitutes a human, a camouflage agent accompanying Nakamura starts a diversion and gets away with the body. Having suspected foul play, Kusanagi's team is prepared and immediately pursues the agent. Meanwhile, Section 9 researches Project 2501, mentioned earlier by the puppet master, and finds a connection to Dayata, who Section 6 tries to keep from defecting the country. Facing the discovered information, Daisuke Aramaki, chief of Section 9, concludes that Section 6 created the puppet master itself for various political purposes and now seeks to reclaim the body that it currently inhabits. Kusanagi follows the car carrying the body to an abandoned building where she discovers it being protected by a robotic spider-like tank. Spider tank, not so friendly neighborhood spider tank. I had to do that. Every time I see the spider tank, that song goes through my head. Anxious to face the puppet master's ghost, Kusanagi engages the tank without backup, resulting in her body being mostly dismembered. Her partner Batu arrives in time to save her with his BFG, which he just happens to have in his collection, and helps connect her brain to the puppet master's. The puppet master explains to Kusanagi that he was created by Section 6. While wandering various networks, he became sentient and began to contemplate his existence. Deciding that the essence of life is reproduction and mortality, he wants to exist within a physical brain that will eventually die. As he could not escape Section 6's network, he had to download himself into a cybernetic body. Having interacted with Kusanagi without her knowledge, he believes she is also questioning her humanity, and they have a lot in common.
He violated
He proposes merging their ghosts, and in return, Kusanagi would gain all of his capabilities. Kusanagi agrees to the merge. Meanwhile, snipers from Section 6 approach the building in helicopters, intending to destroy the Puppet Master and Kusanagi's brain to cover up Project 2501. The Puppet Master's shell is destroyed, but Batu shields Kusanagi's head in time to save her brain and has his arm blown off in the attempt. As Section 9 closes in on the site, the snipers retreat. Kusanagi wakes up in Batu's safe house with her previous shell's head attached to a new cyborg child's body. She tells Batu that the entity within her body is neither Kusanagi nor the Puppet Master, but a combination of both. She promises Batu they will meet again, leaves the house, and wonders where to go next. And then you get that scene of her looking out over the city, and you've got the old city and Newport City, which is the reclaimed land in the middle of Tokyo Bay. Cue the credits, which are also awesome because it's got great music.
Oh yeah, so a few things. First of all, I didn't realize till just now. Yeah, I guess their weaponry was created by John Carmack. That's amazing. Second, because you said BFG. Second,
well, they say BG, but I put the F in because it was pretty effy.
Yeah. No, so oh man, I thought it was pretty. The line that stuck out to me was where Bato was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, the child body was the only thing I could get on the black market," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, Why was that the only body on the black market? What's going on?
I think it's because I mean this was not official that she was supposed to survive it. Maybe so it's
Yeah.
beyond even Section 9.
Right. No, I'm just saying, like, there's a little bit of darkness there where it's like,
Oh,
we
yeah.
could just get child
Yes.
bodies on the black market. It's no big deal. Like,
Yeah.
which was
Yep.
obviously intentional. It fits the fucked up world that they live in.
Yeah. I think I mean you have the fucked up use for it, and then you have people that cannot have children that would try to also remediate that by actually having a child droid, which I
Yeah.
think there's many movies that are good about this topic, and there's one that we have to cover. Did we cover it? Artificial intelligence.
Yeah,
with
I
the
was just gonna
child-
say AI. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not yet.
that movie actually covers that. How people would try to remediate this with, but then there's that stigma and that problem of that child's never gonna grow up.
Yeah. Well, there's also, I thought it was actually like symbolically really interesting because, like, the implication is that, like, well, Kusanagi and the puppet master have fused, and this is kind of literally their child. It's neither one of theirs. It's a combination of both of them.
Yep. And I mean, think about it. If Section 9 knows and finds Kusanagi, knowing that she's fused with the guy that they were chasing over, she's done for. They're gonna
Yeah.
lock her up and plug her up and try to just scan her up and diffuse her. However,
Yeah, but now she has the powers of the puppet master.
yeah,
So they're probably not going to be able to do that. They can try.
and that's why she's on the run, probably too.
Yeah. Oh, she's a cyber god now.
Yeah,
She can do whatever the fuck she wants.
You know that,
and it seems she was one of a kind of like her caliber in Section 9 and in military and governmental power too. There was no many or any like her.
that brings another question that I had, like on that scene. Uh, Knowing how our consciousness, or I shouldn't say knowing, because no one really knows, but my perception of what consciousness, or our typical perception of what consciousness is, do you agree, or do you think that she is her? She is a combination of her and the puppet master, or she's a complete different person?
I think it's either that she is a combination or she is a completely different person, because
I agree.
she straight up addresses that. Like, the only instance that we have of her actually stating who she is, she turns to Bato and says, I'm neither Kusanagi or I'm neither Kusaragi or the puppet master. So yeah, it would that is a good question. I feel like there's got to be, like, it seems like there is some remnant of Kusaragi in there. Like, it's not like, because Bato's talking to her and she's responding like she is Kusaragi and she knows him and stuff. So you got to imagine, if it's not a half and half combination, she is at least in there in some way.
The reason why I'm mentioning that,
I know why you mentioned it, Robert, because when the master puppet was talking to her, he inferred that she was not gonna be her anymore at all.
well,
She was not being her, and she even asking, "So you're telling me that I'm gonna cease to exist? Why would I let you come in?"
Yeah, and he did say that basically they're having a child together.
Yeah.
And that's who I think it is. So the reason why you got a really good point there, but the reason why I was mentioning it, if we go by that theory, then I don't like this movie because the main character died.
No, man. The main character becomes a child that we're gonna have.
No, it doesn't.
The main character. Well, but isn't that sort of like what they were talking about with reproduction, where it's like, oh, you can clone yourself. It's like cloning isn't the same. Cloning is not the same as there's this sense of living on while still changing and improving and iterating and like altering. And I think that is actually like what she is, where it's like, in the same way that people, like, you have like some of both of your parents in you, no matter what you do. And I think that is kind of a literal metaphor for what that is, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, look, the reason why this was so good is because you can have these discussions, you know, like shit, that's how you want a sci-fi movie to end, you know.
Yeah, this movie is packed with philosophical, psychological
Political.
questions, you know, medical
So many political.
questions.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, I watched a little bit of something from this guy Mother's Basement, who we've had on our show before. He's great. But he was talking about how like a lot of Ghost in the Shell is like specifically referring to like the extreme bureaucracy of like the Japanese government and stuff, like directly talking about it. And you can tell that because like, you know, it starts off, one of the first things that happens is that like is that like a diplomat starts arguing with people with guns over like diplomatic immunity.
After shooting
And,
at
like,
them.
yeah, after shooting at them. Yeah. And they
That-
have
I wonder what the fuck version of it is. Like he opens fire and they're like, wait. I was like,
wait,
what?
I have diplomatic immunity. Diplomatic immunity. Yeah.
I was like, what is this? Wild Wild West? No right to bear arms in Japan, man. Police have batons in there.
oh man, yeah,
Oh,
Can
man.
diplomatic immunity stop a bullet?
Yeah. Apparently it can't. So
Well, Mokoto Kusanagi's entrance line after that is great too. Yeah, we love democracy. Da, 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 da.
yeah. Oh, sure you do. Yeah. Oh man.
yeah.
But
This
that
movie,
opening scene just shows how brutal she is. Like she doesn't give a shit
Yes.
if she's told to just blow somebody's head off. Yep, no worries.
I
Done.
also feel like the gore in this movie also served a purpose in that scene, because like what it did was it showed, because they blew him up, but you saw, oh my god, like the inside of his body is also cybernetic, like his
wires and mechanics and stuff in there.
yeah, like somebody you wouldn't even expect, which shows you no, it isn't just these super soldiers who have cyber implants, it's everyone.
I saw actually an implant that Robert would make, probably the one in the tip of the fingers that goes like every finger opens and then
Dude, oh my god, that was like, I remember that so clearly from like Standalone Complex, the TV show. Like it ran on Toonami or Adult Swim or something, and I used to watch that as a kid. So when that, I was waiting like the whole movie for that, because that was like the coolest shit. And when that came out, I was like, there it is, it's the finger thing. Oh
he
man,
made programming look stupid, man.
oh, it's so funny because like you'd think like in a cyber world they could just connect the computers to their brains anyway and they wouldn't have to do that. But it looks so cool, I don't even care. Like
Yeah.
yeah, that
retro sci-fi aesthetic.
oh yeah,
We could do it the easy way, but nah, this looks cooler.
yeah, it's a movie. What, you want us to do it the easy way? Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. A lot of this stuff would probably be more streamlined in the future, but that sucks. We're trying to make something that's cool and that like is memorable visually and says something, you know?
I love the car that the guys were escaping in that has reversing across the back of it when it's reversing. It's like, that makes so much sense.
Back.
Why would, if you had a screen on the back of a car, why wouldn't you have it say reversing when it was in reverse?
That's
Yeah.
that's useful. Hey. Just like, I love that huge just red light in the back. That looked cool.
Yeah, but I thought to myself too, like that would be a DOT problem because you're used to already to see white lights when somebody's backing up. So when you see all the red, if you're not paying attention, you're just gonna hit the shit out of the back of the car. It's just red and you're not reading.
Yeah, that would probably have to go through a few changes in real life just to see which one works.
Yep.
But you'd want to hope that the Japanese public can read English because it said reversing in English.
Well, I mean, look, way more people in Japan can read English than people in America can read English, can read Japanese.
Is that surprising?
Nope.
I'm not saying it's surprising. I'm just saying that's it's. I mean, a lot of basically that. Yeah.
26 characters and 10 numbers versus all those chicken scratches. I mean, come on. Which one's going to be easy to read?
oh wow. Yeah, this movie. One of the things that I like the most about this movie is this movie technically caters to everyone. Like you can watch this movie for its beauty, for its music, for its story,
For the
or
titties.
you could just be like me and overthink every scene because there is content there.
And long for a
Yes.
happy ending.
I gotta watch. I really do have to watch this movie again because, like, there is so much that I absolutely know that I missed on the first.
But are you watching? Are
watch.
you watching the original cut? Or are you watching 2.0?
Oh, I looked up 2.0 and I was like, did you really put CG in this fucking movie? Did you? Oh, I got so mad when I read that because this is like some of the most incredible 2D animation I've seen, like just traditional hand drawn animation I've seen in an anime, just easily, just like bar none, incredible. So the
Well-
idea that they're putting 3D models in that pisses me off so much.
Fair enough, but also they improve the audio out of sight.
Okay.
Especially if you have a good set of headphones, good set of cans, the audio is amazing. The spatial sound of the marketplace was really good.
I'm
Well,
gonna
you
have to
know,
watch
I
it for that.
recommend it.
I mean, hey, this
And when
movie
when the guns report, holy crap!
has...
There's a
Oh,
gun
man.
in my head.
I always love the weapons in this IP. They're
Mm.
so cool looking. Oh man, they just come out of they're like Transformers where they like just turn the briefcase into a submachine gun in like the first scene.
Nice.
What
I
idiot
love
puts
it.
high V rounds in a sub?
Yeah. Oh
And
man.
he picks it up and he's angry. He's like, the barrel is bent and the
What
it's
happens when you
screwed.
use shit?
I should never have done this.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, I have to get going. This was so much fun. I wish I could stay for longer, but this was great. Thank you so much for having me, you
It's
guys.
been great having you, man. We hope
Awesome.
to
Yeah.
see you again.
Absolutely.
We have to do this over again. And maybe the both of you can come in. Apparently, season 2 for us is the season for anime because we've been doing animes, not really meaning to do it. It just happens. So I am.
Hey, I was meaning
very-
to do it.
What did I tell you, Robert?
I made them
Anime
watch
season take the rate.
Steins Gate, Jordan. I made them watch Steins Gate. I'm a bastard.
Yeah, there's an episode on that too. So thank you so much for coming. Again, for all of you listening, if you haven't listened to their podcast, you should, especially if you like anime, or or that manga, you should go ahead and listen to their podcast. It's a lot of fun. As you heard from Gio, he listened today and he just went straight to listening to multiple episodes. I listened to a lot of episodes myself, so it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. Thank you
Nice.
so much for coming.
Thank you, man.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. Thank you for listening. And yeah, it was great meeting you guys. I'll catch you later.
Awesome.
worries.
Take care.
Yeah.
So, I was talking about this previously, and how we have no rails. This movie, it has a lot of, especially when the puppet master is talking. It makes you really think. Like one of those comments that was said in this movie is like, for example, one that the first thing that comes to mind is man is an individual only because of his intangible memory, but memory cannot be defined, yet it defines mankind. And that is so deep. Do you guys recall that?
I mean, she goes deep as fuck when she gets out of the water and started basically defining what an individuality can mean for a human being, the human condition, and how she's a speck of the dust in sand of sand in the desert, but like she's just bound because of her body too at the same time. But that also makes her unique on her own manner, just like every other human being is unique. And it's funny that you say that because I mean you have Tokuga, which is they actually Bato says that him and the major, the old man, are the only two fully human fled integers of the whole 9th section. Everybody else is cyborg as some manner.
Yeah.
There's also another couple of statements that feed into that theme, where they were watching the doctors in red working on the half cyber body that they pulled off the freeway that had the ghost of the 2501 in it, and they were saying memory is at the same time a recording of events and a simulation within the mind at the same time, because you're experiencing what you're having an experience based on what you see. So it's not just the event. Your memory is an event. Your memory is also your reaction to the event.
And I'll tell you something that I actually saw in psychology when I was studying a lot of psychology. But memories are not really something that you could trust as an evidence or as a
No.
record, because basically when we are recording a memory, they say that basically there's more than 80% of the actual factual existence of what happened that you're recalling, because our own biases and our own experience deter us from that. Now that the three of us that we know cyberpunk elements, for example, when you're using on the cyberpunk the VD to actually do editing mode to look at things that the person that is on the VD experiencing didn't catch, like sounds and things like that in conversations, and all of those things, because our attention is on something in our experience. It's not, we're never fully aware of our surroundings most of the time. I mean, most of the people are not even practicing awareness at all, if you
You know,
notice.
I always find that to be really messed up. The fact that nothing about our human bodies is reliable. You said something like our
Oh,
recording of the
two
event,
things are
right?
reliable. And this is a Buddhist told me this. Two things are reliable. They're certain to be happen. We're gonna die, and we have to take a poop, and nobody talks about it.
But what I was going to say
My
is like,
son does.
Well, he shouldn't be so aware that he's gonna die. He's
Toilet
too young.
kids and toilet humor, man. God.
Hey, guy, he knows how to go potty, right?
He's 9. He's past that.
so the recording of the event is not reliable because a lot of things influence. Not only that, but recalling the event also changes that memory of that
That's like a
event.
copy of a copy of a copy.
Oh yeah.
However, during the recording of the event, we shouldn't trust our eyes because our brain is making up or trying to decipher the electrons that are hitting into into
You
our
know,
the
you know what
light.
I've learned is the best thing by experience, by definition, for better memory, journaling. I used to journal a lot. I don't anymore. But when I did journaling and I go back to my journal entries back to years, 3 years, and I read them, I can see a different perspective. I can see the freshness of how things were the way I saw them back then and how I remember them.
Yeah, but see, you're talking about the recalling of the event.
No, but I'm talking about journaling now and look at it back 3 years and remembering and then looking at it and say like, whoa, it's not what I remember.
Exactly. Now, listen what I'm saying and tell me if you agree, right? What you're talking about is you're getting a fresh perspective of what you recall back then after reading it 3 years later, taking into account that every time you remember that event, you're changing it. So when you read it, you get a closer estimation without all the alterations that happen when you recall the event. Now, what do you feel if I tell you that the event itself that you recorded, it's still wrong?
That's the thing. That's what I'm telling you. When I read it back, like I can read it with a different perspective and see things that my emotions might actually have infer into it. That's why many of the human condition versus cyborg says human emotion is bad. It
Yeah,
gets in
but
the
see,
way. And
you're
at the
still
same
talking.
time, it's like it's actually an important factor because it actually gives our humanity and actually weighs in our decision making process that could make better or worse outcome.
But you're still talking about recalling the event. I'm talking something more deep than that.
I'm talking about the plasm fact of what you chose or made decisions on, regardless of, and looking back into it with a different perspective. It doesn't change the
Ex-
past.
exactly. That's so. Here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking to something completely different from that. And Ray, I don't know if you know where I'm getting with this, but when you recorded that event, you use your eyes, you use your ears, you use your senses, all of your senses to make a concept of what happened, and then use your hands to record it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Those
there's another step in the process. It's you pass it through your understanding and your knowledge, and you change what actually happened to fit your paradigm.
exactly. So that what Ray is talking about is exactly what I'm talking about. Your eyes will see only what you perceive them to see. And that's why other people looking at the same event at the same time will see something completely different. Their experience will be completely different.
Now, what
They
would you
hear
say if
some,
I'm an overthinker?
I'm sorry?
Which is why eyewitnesses never agree in a court case.
If what you're saying is correct, Gio, this is the reason why I'm talking about this. If what you're saying is correct, then when you pull people, say something, let's say for example an accident happened and the police calls everybody on the corner that saw the accident happen. If that was correct, then everyone that
Would
was pulled
agree.
by the police will tell you the exact same story, but
I
that's
have a
not what
tool.
happens.
I have a tool that keeps me from my own biases. No, I strive. I make this my creed to be always counterintuitive when I am making an assertion about something that happens. So I even when I am emotionally affected, I am counterintuitive to think against my own biases and put into consideration to wage all possibilities before I make an assertion about this is what I feel is happening. Because I have this sense of, I won't say justice, but fairness. And we humans, when we try to be in a good path, we always strive for nobility of character. And nobility of character means that your interests are never going to be in the first place. Usually are in the middle or behind the line. You know, and that's why I always. I mean, it's been more than 10 years that I've been like this, to try to be always counterintuitive when something is happening. Because if you're
Yeah,
not counterintuitive, then you're always gonna be the victim. And I've learned we're not victim of anything in life. Even the mistreatment that we get, we accept it. You know,
But
so
the human psyche is
very biased.
predisposed to dodge blame,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
and
and
therefore
being
whatever you see,
counterintuitive.
your mind will adjust to make you not responsible.
That's
mhm.
true. That's true. That's why being counterintuitive plays a lot of good for me. Actually, I'm one of the few guys in my workplace that always say, "Hey, I fucked up." And most of my, whenever I had a superior, they tell me like, "Man, it's hard to get mad at you because you come and actually throw yourself at the blame and you already put the banner that you're the, the guy that fucked up." Most people actually try to blame somebody else or brush it under the carpet. Is
It's
what
the
I've seen.
difference between assigning blame and taking responsibility.
Yes,
Yeah.
Taking responsibility is positive because you accept that you made a mistake and you will attempt to change
Won't
your
you
behavior so
won't
it
you
doesn't
say
happen
that it's the
again.
opposite
If
instead of
you
the
assign
difference?
blame, you will never change because you won't accept that you made the mistake.
Accepting responsibility, then it will be the opposite of assigning blame.
Exactly. One is positive and one is highly negative.
Yeah, and I mean that's the way I see things. When somebody has something to tell me about a bad habit or a bad behavior, and I have had friends that actually don't want to be told that. I tell like, hey man, if you have nothing to learn from here, what are you doing alive? You know, what are we doing alive if we have nothing to learn? What do we wake up tomorrow if we have nothing to get better at? And I mean, I've learned that we learn every single day of our lives. Somebody told me one day we learn even how to die. You know, or
I
Hercules says when they tell him, "Hey, you're gonna die," it's like there's worse things in life than dying.
yeah, I I strongly believe that our biases is what makes us as a person. no one in this world is free of biases.
No.
Um, I that's going back to what I was saying. The way you see things is different from the way I see things. The way you hear things or sense things is always going to be different than the way that I sense things. And again, that's why we come back and say that's why we agree when you pull eyewitnesses, they never match up
Yep.
because they all experience the same thing. Not only that, but your state of mind at the time of the event
Emotion.
will also change the way that you perceive that thing or that event. So this is the reason why I was saying what you write on a journal, it's never going to be 100% what really happened because of those biases, because of the way that we see things. If
Now,
we both
putting it,
journal the
I
same
I
event,
feel like you're omitting what I'm using as a filter for how I record data. I am always counterintuitive when I
no,
put
but
that
I'm not talking
information.
about that because you still have biases. Everybody has biases. And your biases are different than my biases, if that makes sense. Ray,
Of
do you know
course,
what I'm talking about? I mean, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
of course.
You
If our
a
biases were the
human
same,
a
we're the same
human
person.
a human cannot record an event without comparing it to their knowledge and experience and filtering it through that lens and therefore biasing the result. That is why dash cams and body cams are so important because they give an unfiltered version. Oh God, what's his name? Last part of his surname's Dyson. He's a eminent scientist, and I just can't remember the rest of his name.
Dr. Dyson from Alita Battle
No. He's an American. He's an American scientific communicator.
an astrophysicist?
Tyson, not Dyson. Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson? Neil deGrasse
Yeah,
Tyson?
thank you, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Way.
He states that data in science is not believed unless it can be recorded by a machine, because the human eyes, ears, touch, smell, taste cannot be trusted. And it goes back to what Robert was saying.
And I agree 100% because that's the exact same reason why the journals have to be peer review.
Yeah.
And the results have to match with
Now,
what other people have found.
touching where I was going to, the way that I get to see the integrity of data too is by one other thing that I consider my creed, my way to see life. Everything in life, and you're gonna notice this after I tell you, you won't be able to see it. Everything in life is consistency. You know. So what means that? When I tell you, like I tell you, this person is in this way. The consistency, you're gonna see it on a behavior repeated. You know. So if I'm consistent on telling you when a person is reliable, you're gonna see consistency on their reliability. If they're not reliable, they won't be consistent with that. If I tell you, if a person tells you they are in this way and they are not in that way, they're inconsistent in between what they say and what they are. You know, the same way, if I see that I see something in a way and I consistently keep on seeing it the same way, and I keep on getting outer views, because that's what most people don't want to do, is getting out of their comfort zone and getting somebody else to give you an outer view to tell them, no, you were wrong here, and accepting responsibility for their wrongdoings. Most people are like, no, I'm not wrong. You know, most people don't like to admit that they messed up. Most people don't like to actually apologize and do right by their wrongs. I've noticed, and that's a social nuance that most people don't like to talk about, but it's a reality of today's society. You know, we don't live in a noble society. It's like Sir Anthony Hopkins said one day. You have the itus, patos, and logos. You have who you think you are, your first ego, but then you have the super ego, who you think you should be, and then who you think you are versus who you actually are. There are three different ideas. We never are who we think we actually are, and we never are what we would like to be.
Yeah.
We tell ourselves stories
Yeah.
all the time.
I call that the
And,
movie.
Yeah, if you believe the stories if you tell yourself them often enough, and that can be positive and negative. You can tell yourself stories
That's
about you're
crappy
not worthy,
reassurance.
you're not good enough, you can't do this, and they become real because you told yourself those stories enough that you convinced yourself. Likewise, if you tell yourself you are good enough, you can do it. It
Fake
can
it till you make
motivate
it.
you, and it can push you over the line to achieve things. But it can also you can also convince yourself all sorts of stuff, especially if you're not very you don't navel gaze very much.
Yeah.
If you don't look internally and seriously consider yourself, you can often go off completely. You can go off and try and do things that you've got no concept of actually being able to do because you convinced yourself you can. And I'm not picking on people of lower intelligence, but they kind of do that a lot.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, you can ask Robert. There are things that I've tried to do and that's the thing. One of my favorite psychoanalysts called Robert B. Jordan. This guy took on the government with the Bill C-16 in Canada and make the whole government look like stupid because he was right about it. But the guy says we have to know our own damn limitations. Part of introspective and getting to know ourselves too is getting to know our ugly parts and accept it because we are not all better roses. And if we're better roses, we have the spines too, you know. But most people they don't like to look inside and say like, I have this personality trait that it's not very good, it's toxic or it's bad, you know. And most people don't do that. Most people when they look inwards, they just look at their good things. And I mean, the way that I've known to, because I'm very conflictive when it comes to that. I don't think it twice to speak to somebody. You have this attitude and it's shitty, and I don't have to put up with it. And basically, people get very, very annoyed. It's like you touch a nerve. And I mean, when something is not really a truth or things like that, is when truth really hurts. Because when somebody tells you something that you don't want to really accept, that's when it spikes you up. It pinches you. It makes you angry, and it's because they went behind the curtain and found that out. You know, by observing.
They pushed your buttons.
Yeah, they push your buttons, and that's how you know. That's how you know something is true or not. When somebody has told something to me that is not true, like I don't get annoyed at all. And I mean, when you have an attitude to do better too, you don't get annoyed because you are accepting. That's the part of uh, being responsible to. It's a social individual responsibility, if you want to call it something. Basically, to accept when somebody tells you something that is gonna touch a nerve and basically get you out of your comfort zone, but tell you have this bad attitude that it's not good for you and it's not good for anybody around you. And most people don't have the stomach to even sit down. Most people will fall on their death before actually looking inwards and say, "Yeah, I have this and it's bad." They don't.
Well, that's the whole thing of not taking on somebody else's emotional state.
Absolutely.
So basically, just because they're upset doesn't mean you need to get upset.
No, absolutely.
And when you understand that pretty much everything anybody else says about you or confronts you with is them talking about themselves, and what they're going through in their head, not talking about you, then you can live with grace, and you can just not get upset about what anybody says to you because it's basically about them.
Look,
And
I'll
when
give
you
you
understand
a
that,
short anecdote so you understand. In a day of work, somebody did something and just tried playing boss on me and my other colleague. My colleague had problems with people bossing him around. We were all the same tier employee. And this guy here was like, I told him, "You're doing something wrong." "No, do it." "Okay." And I just was chill the whole day. My friend was pissed off. He even got pissed off with me because I fall in line. Then I told him, "I will have a conversation with you at the end of the day." I told him, "But I don't think you have the maturity to have it. So if you think you do, and remember, you're gonna agree on this. If you do, we're gonna have the conversation." He said, "Let's have it." And then I told him, "Look how you got with this guy for this, and the. He's not the boss of mine. You have a shit head out attitude for following in line." And I told him, "No, buddy, this is the problem. How you are right now?" And like, "I'm fine." I'm like, "Dude, you looks like you're pushing shit right now. You're tense." And then he was like, "Okay, you're right." I'm like, "You see, you don't have the maturity to have it. Why you told me that you do so?" "Okay, tell me." I told him, "You see, you're tense. You let this guy control your state of mind. Me, I told him what I thought it was wrong. If he wants to be the boss, he's gonna assume the responsibility that comes with that. And on top of that, he did not control my state of mind. I'm as chill as this morning when I started working. Nobody gets to dictate how I'm gonna feel, but you allow somebody else to make you their slave by that.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
why
and at the end, I was like, "Shit, man, you're right."
that's why I
And then I
always
thought, hey, you
say
insulted me right now, and I didn't let it get me because you're letting your emotions dictate what you're gonna say. This is not my friend who's talking. This is pure emotion, and emotion is not gonna get you much further because you're not able to see.
this is why I say all the time that we have a short life. You know, you are born and then you die. Why not making our life in this planet the best that we can for us? Do not let anyone dictate how you feel.
No,
You make the best that you can with a clean heart. You do everything you do with a clean heart.
and be just, not to be taken by fool neither. You
And,
know, don't let anybody take advantage of you. It doesn't mean that you have to get mad at them. You know,
and enjoy the positivity. If you have negative people in your life, you have the choice to walk away. Um, just make it the best. Don't let people dictate, because then you're gonna have regret. You're gonna die tomorrow, and okay, this person
not
make me
me,
feel.
man. I live with no fucking regrets. It's the best. But
But you
I'll
know,
tell you, most people like I do live like that, Robert. The only thing that I have, and I think it's just a personal mission to me, is like I feel the duty that at least once let that person know of their bad behavior attitude, at least once, because that way, if the person comes back to me in my life for this reason or the other, they don't have the excuse to say I didn't know that, you know, because many people do not know or are not conscious because of lack of self awareness of their bad behaviors and their bad biases. And when somebody tells you, sometimes that could be everything you need to be nudged into the right direction. I've noticed. Sometimes a guy that is a bully, you tell them, hey, you're doing this, this, and that, and it's not nice. And it might change their lives and who they are for a better perspective.
and this I have to point it. I have to point out. This is the type of conversation that this movie pulls from you. It's really deep. I mean, we have a quote from the movie where it is said, all things change in a dynamic environment. Your effort to remain what you are is what limits you.
Yeah. And
And then,
that's the war that human has with death. It's trying to overcome it. It's trying to control. Human mandates to control since the beginning of time. Emperors trying to take over other lands and own everything. You know, and you can see it consistently. It's consistency. You see, it's consistent through whole human history that man wants to control anything, and if they don't understand it, they want to destroy it because they fear it, because men usually fear the unknown instead of wonder about it and wonder on it.
yeah, I mean,
Oh, good. You wound down. I can get a word in.
Go ahead,
I
Mike.
was just gonna just draw the sort of the important point out of this, and it's self
Yes.
awareness, and self consideration, like considering how you are behaving and where you are in your journey, because most people are their own worst enemy.
Yes.
And when you understand that it's not about controlling others, it's about coming to terms with yourself and becoming your best self, that is when you actually see growth. You will never see growth by wanting to change the world. You
Yeah.
will only see growth by working on and changing yourself for the better.
Yeah. Like Jordan Peterson says, if you want to change the world, you start by yourself inside. Clean up your room, he says.
Yeah. Clean up
And
your
it's just
room
like
before
that.
you go out into the world. Yeah. Yeah. That's the one.
So,
Yeah,
I
I
But I
mean,
clean
mean,
up my room.
Kusanagi's asking the same questions when she comes up on the boat, and they're having that deep conversation. She's paranoid. That is she a real person? Is there a brain inside her cyber skull? Is there actually any humanity left in there at all? And she
Hmm.
says to Bato, "Have you ever cut your head open? Do you know if there's a brain in there? Are you a real person?"
And you know,
Yeah.
when they were having that conversation, and it's a good thing you
That was
mentioned,
one
when
of
they were
the
having that
biggest moments
conversation,
of
I
the
was
movie.
actually really thinking about that because, you know, us being self aware, if we were in that situation, how do you know? That is a
Well, once you
scary
start swapping
thought.
bits out, how do you know where it ends?
Yeah. I mean, even
I'll tell you
now,
something. I learned from Buddhists actually. Like these guys even can control their own heart rate and things like this. Like that's where the breathing comes from. The breathing exercises. Like you're breathing, the three of us right now, but we're not thinking about it. We're not inhaling, exhaling consciously, and we do so many things mechanically like that that we cannot even come to terms with. If you think about it on a daily basis, I mean, think about if you start thinking about it, we will not. This episode
Autonomic
will be
nervous
hours.
system.
mhm,
Exactly, exactly. It's just so many things, and they could have a big impact in what our day is gonna be from the start to end. Self awareness. There's actually a practice that I like very much. When I start having a lot of problems in my life in the past, I start studying it. It's called self actualization, and it's all about that. It's about sitting down and pondering about things like this, things that make you a better person, things that help you come to terms with wrong endings in the past, and how you are able to move on from that. But it comes work and responsibility with that. It's what Ray says. Before, after coming to terms with who you are, is the work of becoming your better self. You know, which is is the uphill battle. Always is it's a constant work. We always want to think of happiness of a destiny as a place that you get there and woohoo, I did it. And I mean, life is not like that. Life is a constant effort. So it's a work that never ends too. And you cannot look at it as a pyramid that you can never go up to, because there's always going to be somebody that is going to be beyond you and somebody's going to be behind you. But it's not a race, and we always try to, because of our system of comparison with everything, even our thought processing, we are basically a conglomeration of all experience and all the people that we've been in contact with through our whole lives, right? And if you think about it, we try to compare all of that together to make sense of our present, and we don't understand that our only competitor is our current self and our past self.
yeah.
Nobody else. We should not compare ever. That's the biggest mistake that I've seen most people do, is that they try to compare themselves to somebody else, and it's gotten me to a point like, you can show me the most famous person, I see them just like another human being. I don't like treat anybody, because I just see them as another person. I think this person also has their problems on a day to day life. They're just like me.
Yep.
That's where it comes to saying too.
Everybody you come into contact with and come into strife with is struggling with something.
Yeah, it's like Robin
And if you
Williams used to
keep
say,
that
"Be
in
nice."
mind, you'll understand that kindness is key.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Even to
Robin
people who
Williams
are
used to say, "Be nice to everybody. Everybody's fighting their own demons, and you cannot find them to know what they are."
exactly.
You know?
Hey, you know how Robert likes to ask really spinny questions? I just thought of one while you were talking there to do like directly to do with the whole what is human and the cyberpunk theme of this movie. Can I ask you guys a question?
Mhm.
Sure.
I really want to know your thoughts on this. So we have discussed over the last 20 minutes that you can't trust human recording with our senses because we modify what we record through our own experiences and introduce our own personal biases. So we've verified that that's a thing, right?
Mhm.
We all agree that that happens.
Yeah.
So if we create AI in our own image, so we make positronic brains or whatever the hell it happens to be that does the thinking that's like our thinking because we think we're the best, are
Yeah.
we introducing bias in either accidentally or deliberately into these
I
new
think
systems,
I
which
go
is then
first.
going to stuff up the recording and we can no longer trust our machines recordings?
I have a short answer, and I'm gonna just spit it out. Yes, this is the main problem with AI, is that we're not creating it properly. We're creating something that is not what it's meant to be. Point.
Well, I'm going to answer the question directly. And I think the answer, short answer is yes. Everyone, I'm a strong believer that everyone has biases, and this is something that we will not be able to get rid of.
Maybe that's why we have the three rules for the AI.
And it doesn't matter what AI you create, you are going to introduce biases into it. You will.
I think that the movie I, Robot touched a lot about the biases, and they play very well with the three rules because of it.
Yeah, but the three rules. See,
They're a conundrum. They're a Pandora box. If you think about it, that's what they actually want to make a point of in the movie. Is that there's no rules that you can make up or put up. And at the end of the day, it's just what I say. We are creating AI to our own image, so we're doing it all wrong because AI is not us. And it's like trying to get a monkey. No, not a monkey. Let's go further. It's like getting a fish and trying to raise it like a human when they're not meant to be like that. So they're not going to their maximum exponential potential because we're giving in those limiters. That's probably what holds us back for understanding quantum physics and things like this, is because they are not made on human language. We are dumbifying it to understand it. And
let me
how much you think of the integrity of that data is lost in that translation?
let me give you an example. Have you ever heard of companies like Google in the past create an AI bot
Mina,
and free it? No, I'm not talking about anything current. This is the initial, back
chatbot.
your chatbots, and they introduced it to the world, right? So then you hear in the news, maybe a couple of months later, maybe a year later, how they had to shut it down because of X or Y. This is the reason we are creating this AI with the biases of the creators. And then you open it up to the biases of the world when you open it up to the net.
Yeah.
And it just became ugly.
The movie Transcendence actually shows the reality of what you're just saying. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, or movies where AI understands that human preservation, it's not imperative.
In things
Actually,
like that,
sometimes it's actually the elimination because we are like a cancer in the earth, if you think about it. We
you
take, but we don't replace,
in
you
things
know?
like that, you understand why we have movies where AI takes over and decides to kill all of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
And it makes total sense. If you're
exactly.
unbiased and you put emotions and your self preservation aside, it makes total sense, you
Hi,
know?
Ultron. How you doing?
Yeah, yeah. I
Hey,
mean,
Ultron, if you want to be on our future podcast, reach out to me through Twitter. We'd love to have you here.
but you make
Reach out to me.
reach out. No, reach out to Ray. He's in the future. You can reach him first. But it makes total sense. If you think about it, that's the reason why, and it's because we have that instinct, that animal instinct, that primal instinct, that is self-preservation before anything else. Most people are not willing to say, like in the zombie movies, "You go on without me." No bullshit. Carry me and let's die together. You know.
On that tone, before we change the subject, I want to ask a question that it piggybacks on Ray's question.
Hey, before you do that, I've got to answer my own question because you didn't give me an opportunity.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's right. So it'll be very short. It's basically if a flawed being creates another being, it has to be flawed.
Yes.
Because a flawed being cannot make a perfect being.
Yes, I agree 100% with that. And that's the reason why my answer was the way it was. On the same tone, on the same conversation, I just have to ask this question, and this is coming straight from the movie itself. And this is, what if a cyber brain could possibly generate its own ghost, create a soul all by itself? And if it did, just what would be the importance of being human then?
The human condition, and I think that a cyborg can attain equality between humans. A full cyborg could attain fuel. I think that in Alita actually, and we had this conversation yesterday in Radio Chaos too. But I think that in Alita, this topic is very, very touched too, on how society is made. But I do think that a full cyborg can attain equality if they are full sentient beings.
Sentient.
Yeah, if they are full sentient being, I think that they're just fully capable of humanity, just as much as a human. In the Animatrix, they touched this right before the war with the machines. This is why we went in war with the machines, is because we didn't want to give them equality, even though we made them to our image and we made them full sentient beings. So it's like we play to be God, and then we throw our kids out of Eden
Yeah,
and try to,
and Ray,
and we become their own hell.
Ray, Ray, before you answer, the reason why I was answer I actually asked that question is because um how what you just said, a flawed being creating a being will be have to be flawed. This plays along in the opposite to that question when we don't know what AI, it could be flawed for all we know, but it's not that our kind of flawed. What are we expecting from the result of them creating?
And to add to Ray's question too, just as a segue, I think that perfect is an ideal. It's not a real concept, and that's
It's a
why
point of view, yes.
being
Point of
flawed
view.
is a conception. It's not a fact. It's not
Hmm.
by definition something being flawed. That's why we have the word unique, because I mean I am flawed in my own ways, but that's what makes me me, and each of you too probably. I
Well,
don't think
it,
that you're
it gets
perfect.
more complicated when you realize that people admire you for your strengths and love you for your flaws. So,
Yeah. Yeah, but they
Yeah.
admire you.
Very
They
complicated.
usually will admire you for your flaws when you are conscious of it and self-aware of it. If you are in denial of your flaws, there's nothing to look up to, because that's a big nuance if you think about it.
Mm.
That I mean, why would you try to look up to somebody that says he's perfect? That feels ill, you know. When somebody tells me I am good, I'm the best, I'm like, like no,
Yeah,
you're not, bro.
self-aggrandizing. Yeah.
No, it sounds
Hey,
ugly. It sounds ugly, straight up. It sounds ugly when somebody tells you that I'm the best, I'm good. Oh, you can trust me.
mm,
It's like, no, I cannot trust you. I gotta see you. I gotta see the consistency
yeah.
on your behavior
Show,
that will
don't
tell me
tell.
exactly. Show,
Yep.
don't tell. Point blank.
Yeah. I'm going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons and answer Robert's question with another question. how
It's getting
how
interesting.
is how is a machine system becoming sentient and creating its own soul, or however you want to call it? It's basically becoming sentient and becoming a thinking organism like a human, right? That's what we're looking at here. Yes.
Hmm.
So, how is that any different from another creature on Earth evolving sentience? There's some that are very close,
Yeah,
chimpanzees, dolphins.
dolphins,
Um,
whales,
but some people believe that octopus are pretty damn close, but they just don't live long enough.
even
Uh,
whales.
but but exactly, but if one of these creatures gained sentience, created a language that we could understand and we
They
could
know what's
talk
the
to them
clock.
and recognize self and filled all the criteria of sentience,
Mhm.
how would we feel about that, having sentient
I can
competition on
I
this
can I
planet?
can answer you that straight up, and it was gonna link up to all the other questions that you have made about what differentiates us and what gives humanity to a full uh, cybernetic being. Is basically we try to put everything on human psychology, and
Hmm.
no other animal in the earth behaves or act or is configured after human psychology. Dogs have their own psychology. Cats have their own psychology. Dolphins have their own psychology, and whales, even orcas. You've seen people that are able to swim with wild orcas because they understand orcas' wild psychology, so they don't become a prey on the water for an orca. For an orca, they actually became an equal. And we do not understand. Most of us don't understand that you have to be a specialist or what you call a whisperer of certain breed of animal to be told, oh, you know how to talk to them. No, you don't know how to talk to them. You know how to think like they think. You're able to look beyond your human faculties and become one with the universe. And I think that that's the proper way that we should create AI, for it to excel at its maximum potential is not to bound it to human psychology only.
But the
That
big
could
problem
be,
with human psychology is fear.
yes, that's one of the biggest things. Fear, and that's it. Fear is attached to control. And
Mm.
many people actually have heard like, "Oh, I did so many bad things in the past, and I'm respected for that." Like, that's nothing to actually admire about that. I wouldn't like to respect you or admire you because you done ugly things. And most people, where I hit them in the gut with it, is like, "Would you like your kid to actually be proud that you did this and that?" No, I wouldn't. Exactly, because you
I
love them and they actually get your soft spot, and basically you want them to be good and you want to have a good life. So most people, unfortunately, they go by that fear, and I should be fear, I should be respected with fear, and it's what you say, Ray, is being loved by our good traits and even more loved by our weaknesses. But we have to be willing to let down the guard and the walls and let the world see them or not be afraid of them. Many times, like I'm talking to my family and I tell them, "Oh, I've been down or this and that. Oh, my son, you had to get up. You had to be positive." Like most people think this shit, but most of us are not willing to express them, and that's the problem. We have
okay.
days, and I like whenever I'm talking to my dad and he told me that, like I'm sure that you have days that you're not wanting to wake up, but you don't want to meet that. You just want to lie to yourself and go through it and power through it, and that can help you. But not making awareness of it always keep you back in the trap.
I want to say two things before we move on and to answer Ray's question. Number one, I feel that humans, in the way that we think, and because of our biases, just like I mentioned before, we all have biases, like to think of ourselves as the only being in the universe. So that should
Got
answer
Or
complex.
maybe the only
part,
being that matters.
the only
Got
being that
complex.
matters. Yes.
Self-preservation.
And that's how, unfortunately, we pose the questions on a scientific discovery. And it would be awesome if when we're doing research, and again, I'm not a scientist, please take that with a grain of salt. It would be great if we, our scientists, when we do research, could ask the right questions to get the right answers. Um, and that's not going to be the case because we have biases,
Mhm.
and that's the reason why we need the scientific journals to be peered by other people and multiple times. Okay, so the that that gets me really going. Um, the other thing that I have to say is the AI, unfortunately, it could be created by itself, but unfortunately, it would have to deal with the biases of everybody else. So I always question myself in thinking, would that be, you know, them influencing, our biases still influencing that new created AI? So
Maybe we
those
should
are my two comments on your
maybe we
her.
should talk to Wesley Allison so we can get the perfect wife. Patience is the name. Just to be ironic, patience is the
Patience.
name.
So Ray, if you haven't read that book, you should read it. It's really
Oh
good and
man,
it's
you have
really
to.
short.
You have to.
Actually, there we go.
That's what he said.
So before we move on, I want to ask the question that I always ask. What is your final thought on this movie?
My final thought on this movie is that it's a fantastic distillation of the concept of what is human and what humans could become if we end up rendering ourselves down into information, and then that information is combined with information from another source, i.e., sentient AI. There's other movies that have gone close, but I think this is the one that really asks that question: could we become a completely new species if we were rendered down into information and then combined with information from another source? which is a very interesting question. And the whole conversation at the very end, will I still be me? No, you won't. You'll be something new. Don't
But
you
I think
want to
that
be
you won't
something
be
new?
you
Don't you want to
tomorrow
evolve?
either.
Yeah, but exactly. We never stay the same. You always have experiences which modify the way you feel. You just look at people who come back from war, they've been completely changed by that. People who have had car accidents, any a major event that causes emotion sticks with you, because emotions make memories stick like a son of a bitch, which is why you can't forget all the bad things that have ever happened to you. It's that's true.
Home.
It's true.
I hit home. And I think Robert too.
Yeah.
Captain Chaos.
Yeah. And basically the questions that this movie asks, if you really think about it, it looks on the surface to be sort of like a futuristic cop political action movie, but that's just the veneer. If you get down underneath the veneer, there's so many layers to this movie. And like Jordan said, he's going back to watch it again because we've given him another hint at a different layer he hasn't looked at. So he's going to go and watch it again. I've seen this movie over 10 times, and every time I watch it, it reminds me of new things, or I spot new things that I hadn't spotted before.
Mhm.
A lot of cyberpunk has a huge amount of depth, like Alita Battle Angel. There's a huge amount of depth in that movie as well, and questions that are being asked underneath other questions. And they're all onions. The more layers you unwrap, the more you find. So I highly recommend everybody go and watch this again, even if you've seen it before. Having listened to what we've been talking about, maybe you can go and watch it with a different lens and find something new in it. And that's the beauty of science fiction. Science fiction will not only tell you about you today, it will tell you about you in the future when you watch it again after you've changed.
Yep.
Yeah. You, what is your final thought on this movie?
My final thought. I mean, just a second. What Ray said. I think that, and not only this movie, I think that most cyberpunk properties follow into the same characteristic. When you think about it, it questions our humanity. It questions what we become. Elon Musk talks a lot about this in many videos that I've seen of him, and he's thought about our future, Neuralink, and so we will still be human. And yeah, I mean, it's just a matter is we are not gonna be what we are even if we don't become a machine tomorrow or in the next hour, uh, because we're constantly becoming somebody new with every new experience that we have. You know, so that's my thought of it. This movie, I think it was way beyond its time. To be honest, this is like Da Vinci when he was born. He was way beyond his time. This movie has messages and teachings that are countless to be thinking about it. It's just like I'm seconding everything. I'm paraphrasing Ray probably, but basically, yeah, you can watch this movie countless times, and you're always gonna get new perspective and new things because of that deep topic, which is questioning our humanity, who we are, what makes you human.
Yeah. And to end that, I would have to say, to me, this movie is a work of art. The music, the aesthetics, the story, everything is amazing. And if you are a cyberpunk fan and you haven't seen this movie, this is a must watch. Um, if you are not, that's still okay. This is a
It's a
beautiful
documentary.
movie.
You're looking to cyberpunk.
This is a beautiful, beautiful movie. And if you are like we, you will have a lot of topic for conversation for this movie. This movie, if you allow it, it could be really, really deep. It doesn't have to be deep if you're not into those hard sci-fi topics, which
It's
I
a good
find it.
entertaining action movie too.
Yeah, I find this really cool about this movie because I seen some of those hard sci-fi movies, and you, if you're not that kind of person, you'll get a headache. This movie could be what you want it to be. And going back to the topic we're talking about, per section, this movie could be just a beautiful work of art. It could be a fun movie to watch, or it could be a really deep insight into our psyche as humans. So I really, really recommend this movie if you haven't seen it. And if you haven't seen it, and you listen to us and go back and see it, reach out to us and let us know what you think. Obviously, if you've seen this movie, after you listen to this episode, let us know if you think, what do you think about our thoughts, or if you have any other thoughts on this movie. We all about the conversation. We love you. We love for you to reach out and let us know what your thoughts are. And with that, we'll move on to the next segment.
The science in sci-fi.
Ray, take it away.
Well, I'll just preface this with saying that we've all got a topic for this section, which is a first. Usually these guys leave me hanging and I just got to come up with things. But, admittedly, because I'm the scientist, I love this side of things, but I'm slowly converting these two to looking deeper into the properties and finding something that links with what's happened since the movie came out, or what's happening today and where it's going.
Don't rub your white coat on us, bro.
Yeah, white coats are cool. Science fiction becomes science fact. We all know this in that the idea's got to come from somewhere. And if somebody's having an idea, even if they're not able to make it happen, they're able to put it out there and give that idea to people who can make it happen. They go, hey, yeah, that's a cool idea. Let's go with that. So there's things that are generated specifically from seeing them in science fiction, and then there's things that science fiction is predicting. It's not so much that it's generated from an idea that the writer or the filmographer had in that science fiction, but they're actually predicting what they see is happening when the property is created. And they're saying, well, I see it going in this direction. And quite often they can be quite right. And the thing that I wanted to bring up today was remote sensing. So you see the scenes where they're tracking the cars on the freeway, and everything's linked up with a number, and they know where they're going and all this sort of stuff. And you can see it on a screen, and it's showing different levels of the roadways and everything, and it's all in sort of like semi-accurate 3D and all that sort of stuff. That was in the realm of fantasy or science fantasy when this movie came out. There was nothing like that available. This was 95, so you had like Windows 3.1. The space shuttle was the space shuttle was running on the equivalent of a powerful calculator at the time.
And they have Elvis Presley LP.
Yeah, I mean this sort of stuff was out there, but now this is what they have. I actually a guy I know through the internet. I have many friends through the internet, including these two guys, and a guy that I know that he's retired from the US Army now, but he was in the intelligence corps and he was a remote sensing operator. Now, of course, it was all classified. He was over in Iraq. And he wasn't allowed to tell me what he was doing, but he gave me the general gist. And he said, I sit 40 or 50 miles back from the front in an air-conditioned tent, because it was like 110 degrees Fahrenheit where he was. And they have all the monitors, the LCD screens and everything up around them. And it's just like you see in this. They're monitoring vehicles and they're monitoring convoys, and they've got the enemy marked out, they've got the friendlies marked out, and they're providing information to the commanders, who then tell the soldiers what to do so that they can complete their mission as safely as possible and get the hell out of Dodge without dying, which is, preferable for pretty much everybody in the army. The whole idea of being a soldier is to not to die for your country, but to make the other guy die for his. So that's the whole point of this remote sensing. If you know more about the battlefield or the situation, in this case, it's not a battlefield, it's in the city. If you know more about it than the enemy or the people that you're up against, then you will be more successful than they will be.
So in other words, we are information.
Yeah, exactly. Information is gold. It is key.
If you want to put it simpler, we are a bunch of zeros and one.
Well, there is a theory that none of this actually exists, and we're a simulation being run at the edge of the universe. So
At the edge, at least we are in the frontier.
And for that, you want to listen to the 13th floor episode.
yes, that was
I
brought up
still
there.
gotta find that fence, man. I still gotta find that fence where everything goes polygon.
Yeah. Take a photo, put it on Instagram or Twitter or something. It'll be taken down very quickly. Okay, just like mine. So anyway, the term remote sensing came into use in the 1960s, but it was actually first used about 150 years ago. It was a dude in a hot air balloon taking pictures from a hot air balloon over, I think it's in France, actually. The French inventor...
Somebody threw an arrow at it and it fell down, right? And that's how people feel.
Nespi. So remote sensing has been around for a while. Obviously, it's not live remote sensing. They were, taking pictures, and then they had to take them down to the ground and do all the developing, and then look at the stills later on, because that's all they had at the time. But it's come a long way since then. Once we got satellites in orbit, so the 50s, remote sensing became a real thing that happened, almost in real time. But these days, it's a lot like what you see in this movie, where you can have people sitting behind a monitor just about anywhere in the world watching what's going on the battlefield.
From a drone.
And from drones, from satellites, from sensors on the ground, and near instant communication, both from the sensors to the machines that are then going to do the manipulation of the information to give it a context that people can look at a screen and know what's going on. And then that information then gets passed back to the commanders, who then can make decisions based on that information without having to be on the ground. And if you're on the ground in a battlefield, you can't see nearly as much as what these guys can see. So it really becomes important to have more information than your enemy if you're going to be successful. I do feel that this movie gave a really good impression of where remote sensing was going in the mid-90s to where it is now. Another anime that does it really well is Gate, and so the JSDF fought there, where there's, I think it's episode 9 in the anime, where they've got a group of people from another reality that have come through a hyperspace gate, and they're being there's a whole bunch of operatives from Russia and China and America, and they're all trying to kidnap them because they want information about this other world that Japan's keeping to themselves. So they're sending these operatives in, and the Japanese special forces are protecting them. And these people are in an onsen, which is basically it's like a bathhouse where you can stay overnight. So you go to the open air baths and relax, and then you come back in and go to sleep on the tatami mats in a futon, and it's the whole sort of experience. And so they're in there doing that and having drinks and doing stuff. Outside, there's a war going on. It's an operative war where the Japanese guys, because they've got the superior sensing equipment, because it's their home turf, are laying waste to these other operatives who are coming in and trying to kidnap these guests of the Japanese people. And the only time that they actually succeed in getting close to the building is when the Japanese special forces are forced to leave, because the Americans drop a bombshell about having all this information on the current prime minister and his cabinet about all the secret dealings that they've been doing and all the rorts and stuff that they're involved in. And they're basically threatening to drop this to the media if they don't move their special forces out of there and let the other guys come in and kidnap the guest from another world. And the only reason that they don't manage to do that is because Rory Mercury's there, who's a goth lolly combat monster who's 961 years old, and she's pretty much bulletproof. She just basically goes out there and cuts them a new one. Which is, I highly recommend this anime. It's freaking awesome. But there's a whole bunch of animes out there that have this remote sensing thing going on, and this is the anime that sort of started that trend in seeing where remote sensing was going, and then we see it now today in these other animes that have come later, where it's a thing, and it's reflecting what my friend told me about, which is now a thing, at least for US government and US Army. And there's probably other armies out there too who are using it in some capacity, but I think probably the US Army is at the forefront of that sort of technology, being that they have all the high tech companies and everything to pull that technology from.
Lockheed Martin, to be precise. It's Siemens.
But yeah, I found that to be one of those not predicting a technology or suggesting that this technology should become available and then that idea becoming fact, but we see this is where it's going. Yes, that's where it went. So it was in process already, but they sort of extrapolated it out to where we have it today even.
Oh.
Nice. And I mean, I've heard even rumors like 3G internet was invented in the 60s, and we just got it past 2000. Probably like the government was like, okay, the world's not gonna end, given some of the old shit.
I think in part research take a long time.
There's a lot of science theory that takes a long time to become science fact because the materials and the technologies, the physical technologies, have to catch up.
Yeah.
So the theory for 3G probably came about in the 60s, but actually the technology able to create it physically took a lot longer. So that's probably where that happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, I recap some more information about how we're catching up in some way to things that are. It's what we spoke before too. Like in the last 50 years, we're seeing advancement going faster than has gone in the last couple of centuries too. Because the more technology we get, it's like how the self-replicating machine becomes real too. I believe.
Well, you say that, but then they actually expected us to go a lot faster than we have been going in certain areas like flying cars and hoverboards and all those sorts of things.
We do have flying cars. We do have it, but I mean, they are not as modern like jet propulsion shit.
Well,
but
they're not ready for public consumption yet.
Exactly. So it's not that they are not there. It's that we don't have a system that would work in accordance to these technologies, really. So everybody could handle them, if you think about it. So there's not an environment for it to exist, but they do exist.
Yeah, technologies often appear before society is ready for them, not only in understanding from the general populace, but also governmental controls. And how are you supposed to stop people from crashing into each other, flying cars around and then smashing into people's houses? You've got to keep the people safe, not only the people driving the things, but the people underneath them. So
and that's why I have the
as well.
observation too. Like in most of the cyberpunk elements and properties that I see, flying cars are not a thing. And I think they might not become a thing because of that. The environment, the ecosystem is not made for it. Flying is flying and driving is driving. And most of them, what I see is that they are always highways and there's always cars. Even when you go futuristic, like Total Recall, the newest one, you see cars that are they're driving upside down, but they're driving on a highway, you know? And they show actually the catastrophic effects that you have if you actually turn that shit off and you go off an upside down highway. You're gonna fall into roofs and shit and destroy people's houses or buildings. So it's kind of a telltale. And I mean, Elon Musk, for example, like with the Neuralink, all the things that we are supposed to expect from it, but they are still not science fact. Right now,
Mm.
Neuralink is more made for like a preventive medical device than anything else. It's not something that you can actually open your garage door with it by thinking of it, and Google by thinking of it. You can still don't do that with the possibilities, and it's something that I've spoken a lot with
Well,
Robert about it too. Like it's hackable. You know, it has security. It doesn't matter how complicated it is. Who did the rules did the tricks too. You
Like in
know.
this
people
movie.
people are worried enough about their TVs having cameras in them so that they can recognize hand gestures and stuff, and assistants like you mentioned with Google, recording your voice and all the security and the privacy measures around that. So, I
Mhm.
mean, science fiction works on the rule of cool, which is if it's cool, we'll throw it in because we don't have to deal with the application and the problems with the application. Whereas when it comes into reality, that's when the government's got to get involved and insurance has got to get involved and all these other privacy and everything gets on. People get all worried about all the possibilities. So in science fiction, rule of cool, that's fine, it's great. But in
Reality.
the real world, it's way more complicated.
Yeah.
And that's why these things are so much slower to come on.
Totally
Okay.
agree.
You got one, Gio?
Yeah. I mean, besides bringing Neuralink into the pool, actually, there's a couple of robots that I have my eye on for more than 5 years ago, and they're just getting better. Boston Dynamics, which was owned by Google and now is owned by SoftBank. Actually, it's a fully acrobatic robot that named on the model Atlas, and this thing can run through a parkour course completely. It does full front flips and back flips and double flips, can jump obstacles, and actually can be very useful in environments that will be harsh to human condition. Could be
But
space
but
exploration
but
or
does it
rescue
have
mission.
thermoptic camouflage?
Uh, Actually, they are working on military equipments too. They have a dog version that can carry things, and it actually can be armed with weapons. And
But it doesn't become invisible.
I think it could become invisible. But here's the thing, and it happens actually in Ghost in the Shell. You can still look at their shadow.
Yeah.
The
Even
shadow is
Makoto,
still there.
yeah, even
Yeah.
Makoto, when she's on the water fighting with that guy, if you look, the shadow is still there, even though she's invisible. So it's what I tell everybody that's trying to sneak up on me. Like, look, if you're alive and you're breathing, you're casting a shadow. No living thing cannot cast a shadow under the sun. So it doesn't matter if you need to get the Harry Potter invisibility cape, and that's
But but
mana. It's not
but
science.
they're ghosts.
No, the ghost is a schizophrenia on a robot. And if you think about it, yeah, it's just schizophrenia. You're just going schizophrenic and you're having voices inside your head. We actually have experienced this as humans. We have the ghost, that little voice inside your head that is talking to you, the conscious, the good angel and the bad angel. You know, uh, but if you think about the ghost, that's the ghost. That's in Tom and Jerry, the little rat angel and the little rat devil. That is telling you, do it, kill him. And I mean, I think that open world games and shit like that, when you can make good and bad decisions, are the playgrounds where we get to be what we cannot be on reality. If you think about it,
Yeah.
we can make those decisions that we, as a good human with good consciousness, we would not say. I wouldn't do that in real life. Like in Cyberpunk, sometimes I'm just a fucking asshole. Like playing Corporal right now, I'm just being an asshole to everybody. I wouldn't really answer to somebody like that, but fuck it. This is the game. Nobody gets hurt. And sometimes I feel bad for the NCP, NPC. And I mean, this robot has 28 fully workable joints, and it can carry up to 100. It actually weighs 176 pounds. It's still debatable what it can carry, but there are robots there that are like they have counterweight that can carry, also owned by Boston Dynamics, that can carry up to $300 in an hour, and they can jump while rolling up in an obstacle course. I don't know if you've seen on Disney videos in the air and shit. Those are stunt robots. Disney use those nowadays, and these robots have an AI that can make a decision in the air, flying 60 meters in the air, to know how they're gonna twist and turn so they can land in a specific position.
Hell yeah, I want a stunt robot.
Oh, you need the mechanism to actually shoot them out. They are not good for just jumping. They gotta be hanging to something and propelled. So they are not that. But for that, I like more Atlas because Atlas actually is an independent robot that actually can walk and move completely unplugged into anywhere that you release them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn. Yeah, like Ray said, this is actually the very first episode where we all three have something in this segment, so it's really cool. I want to mention there's a couple of technologies when I was watching this movie that they're not necessarily out yet. The research is there, and just like what we were talking about, how they thought the idea, the concept is there, and it takes a long time for it to become a reality, but it starts there at the research, and it's molecular computing and morphic computers. They're obviously they're different, but it's basically on the same topic of basically what a molecular computer, because of the way that it's designed, it can solve problems 10,000 times less with less energy the conventional computer. um, and neurophobic, which is actually on the same. They're basically computers that are modeled after elements of of the human brain or nervous system, um, which is something that you know a while back I find very fascinating. How we already have a computer with us that is very effective, and it's kind of cool to see this kind of research being done where eventually I like we're all talking about quantum computer, but no one is really talking about the research that's been doing on computers that are modeled after that. And the thing that gets me more excited is actually if we ever get, because this is the first step. The gold, which is completely another branch that could come in from this type of research, is about the biocomputers, where our computers are made out of like our brain, made out of biological material. So I was reading a lot about this, and it's kind of cool because it actually came to mind when I was watching this episode, how cool it is when we see in cyberpunk the combination between biological and mechanical components uh, bridge into one. Um, the other thing that it actually caught my attention is the regeneration, and how they are researching uh, regeneration of limbs based on you know animals that are already doing this on the wild. And this is a really cool thing to me also that plays along the same topic as biocomputing, um, because this allows you to create parts, for and actually I believe that this type of research will help in the creation of those biocomputing, because it allows us to get to that point where we can create biological components. Granted, this will be amazing um, as for the medical research, because if you have someone that lose a finger, if this gets to the end result that it is, that we want it to be, you could actually create a new finger and just attach it to the person that lost it. You can read a lot about these research in sciencedaily.com. This particular research about the limb was done by Texas A&M University, but all this, the newscientist.com, science
In
daily.
science.org, actually, there's a study that shows that that there's already technology that can predict how well a technology would do in certain specific people, taking in account that our biological composition is unique from human to human. It
Yeah.
varies, and there's
Now,
actually already technology to predict the compatibility of something with a specific person just with their
that's
DNA.
that'd be cool.
It's
Now,
nice that art.
I would have to add to this that the thing that got me the most excited is the neuromorphic computing. That actually is a science fact. Intel, and I believe they have one, or they're using for research. It is up to 10 times so far, as in 2020. It is up to 10 times faster processing capability, up to 60 times more bandwidth than your average Intel chip, up to 1 million neurons and 15 times greater resource density. So they are experimenting, and they have a computer modeled after, the makeups of our brain. Obviously, it's not biocomputing yet, which is what excites me the most. But this is, I believe, the a path in the right direction
Yeah.
towards that. So all these technologies that I mentioned together, if it comes to a point where they are actually solving those issues, um, all this separate research will help us come up with a, a, a range of different things that we could use that we see in this anime. Biocomputer and bio, um, t- uh,
Prosthetics.
yeah, and the implementation into the human body.
I think that the level of caution that we have with implementation is what brings up the better outcome at the end of the day on technology's development too. Because it's like I don't remember where I saw it, but somebody said about a new technology on a sci-fi that I was watching, and somebody says, "Yeah, that can be used for also massively ugly things." And they actually think it twice to bring that technology to save humanity because of that. And everything can be used for good or for bad. I mean, human prosthetics, like in Cyberpunk, you usually see it to make a human more aggressive and more competitive on an aggressive environment, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And basically, when our outlook to the solutions is gonna matter a lot into the final product of
yeah,
how well something is gonna do in our development as a society and as a scientific community too.
yeah. Now, my final topic within this segment is something that um, gets me really excited. Not, I guess personally, although I personally don't have an immediate need for, but this is something that we considered science fiction in previous episode, and this is why it's so exciting to me because it is considered science fiction in previous episodes, and today I can tell you that is science fact, which is really exciting. I don't know if you guys have heard about atom limbs.
No.
They, by the way, atom limbs is coming in 2023.
Ooh.
So basically, what this is the first artificial human arm. And if you go to atomlimbs.com, I can actually quote what you can find on their main site. Um, it actually says we're making artificial arms that will be capable of near full human range of motion, restore a basic sense of touch, and be mind control. All non-invasive. This is really cool.
It is. Let me ruin it because I had to ruin it on Captain Chaos. I mean, it's gonna be the best if you can masturbate with it. You're gonna be able to masturbate at a faster rate than you can do with your actual hand. You gotta be careful though, because you don't want to burn your dick on it.
But in all seriousness, it's really exciting because although we have talked about this before and how touch is,
Mhm.
just having an arm, it's cool, but
It
to be
helps you
able
to
to
grab
have your
something and
sense,
not squeeze it and break it.
to have your senses,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
this
think it's
is
important part on like if I have a bionic arm, but I cannot feel, it's easy for me to grab this bottle and crush it on my arms, on my
exactly.
hands, because I'm not feeling the pressure points on it, so I cannot feel its resistance and its consistency. as a mass, you know. But when you have that touch, you can feel where the limit goes, so you don't have
So
to actually overuse strength or something like that because of that lack.
yeah, from this, and you guys can go to autolimbs.com and see it for yourself. It's really cool. But where I get excited is because this is the first time. I mean, there's a couple of things like it's number one is full range of motion, completely full range of motion. You can move your fingers individually, your wrist, your hand, everything. It's a full. This is really exciting, and the fact that it's mind controlled,
Now,
non-invasive, so you don't
now,
have to have an operation.
not only for gamers, for people that like to do shooting range, does he have auto aim or aim assistance?
But you're joking around, but this could be the end up result in this technology. Say, what 30 years?
I'll tell you, it cannot be only the arm. You will have to have some mesh with optics for it to
What?
actually be auto aim assistance. You cannot do auto aim assistance if your optics are not involved, because then what are you aiming to? You don't have eyes on your arm, you
Yeah,
know.
but this is what I'm talking about. This is why I'm excited about this. This is the first step, and the first step in the right direction, and just the fact how we talked about senses, right?
Hmm.
This will have, granted, is a basic sense of touch, you know, but that's the beginning. This is how technology is developed, and you could eventually, I can see this covering all senses on
Yeah,
your arm, and you'll be able to go back to normal, which is something that is what's happening right now. But this, with prosthetics, but this over here is a big thing in my mind because
it's a birth
you
of a
know
fully prosthetic body too, if you think
exactly.
about it.
And imagine we're talking about just an arm. This technology could lead to a leg. It could lead to a
Will
lot of
it
things.
will it will? I'm sure of it, because if you think about it, our limbs don't work that much differently one from the
Exactly.
other. So once you can actually replicate an arm, you have both arms already. and
So
and I mean, legs are also fully functional by joints and muscle and touch. The same way, it helps you balance and everything of the sort. So I mean, there will be a couple of things that will be a bit more complex on the legs, thinking of the balancing, because I know it's connected to your eardrums and your sensory audio uh, organs, but
mhm.
it's not far beyond reach neither. So you're totally right.
And if you're a cyberpunk fan, this is amazing because you could see how you know this is the beginning.
I think, and let me ask your opinion. I think that the last thing that we're gonna really go fully develop on is up here in the head, and it's because
Yeah,
of that fear that we always have of lack of control.
yeah,
So I am sure that we're gonna have Atom Smashers walking around the city, but they are fully human from the neck up.
yeah, yeah,
Or just
yeah,
like in the end of each runner, you're gonna have somebody that is gonna be just a torso.
yeah, yeah. And granted, this is obviously what we're talking about. This is for medical, you know, to bring mobility back to people that have had accidents and have lost a limb, which is
Or
really
birth defects,
awesome.
or even birth defects.
Exactly. This is really awesome. But just like any other technology, it doesn't end there. There's a possibility for that to grow into something else.
Mhm. That's what you
So
said.
awesome. So thank you everybody for joining us one more time in this episode. Um, we really, really thank you for being with us one more time. We hope that you enjoyed this episode.
It's been a heck of
Um,
an episode, man.
yeah, it's one of those episodes that we have to kind of cut short because the
Hey, man,
topics within.
it's one more less in my bucket list now. That's how much of a blacklist it was.
Yeah, so we're gonna cover other within this franchise. So I figure, we can cut it short here and we can save up for the next, franchise.
Yeah,
Like,
man. I mean, we have even the Arise franchise to cover, which is 3 movies
yeah, we have
that
the
I
actual
watched them more
movie.
than 4 times each of them, and they're fantastic. And I
Yeah,
have not watched the Something Innocence. It's a new series that came out.
yeah, yeah.
That is, I think it's a full season out there in Netflix. There's
Well,
so much material on this topic and on this property that to be spoken of. But I mean, this is a great, great movie, man.
yeah, yeah. So again, thank you everybody for coming to our episode. And granted, you're going to be watching this a month after it releases on audio. But when you listen to our episode, reach out to us and let us know what you think. If you like our comments, if you don't like our comments, what comments you have that maybe you'd like to know something that we said. Do you agree with our comments? Um, and you could also, call us on a hotline and leave a message. You will be, I will play those in future episodes if you called. But just, let us know what you think about this movie, which is to me is a work of art.
Yeah, it is. Could not
So,
agree more. And could not recommend it more.
yes, yes. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.